And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another week, another edition here of the PondCast. The PondCast, episode 96, your weekly dose of all things StarCraft. I'm, of course, just VIP with you, enjoyed by these amazing, by our topics, by our amazing producer behind the scenes, and by the people in the chat as well. Welcome, welcome, one and all, to our weekly talk show where we talk all things StarCraft and all things StarCraft adjacent as well. And this week, there is a lot to get into. We have been pushing back a couple of topics just because of the PTR going live and just because of us even missing a podcast a couple of weeks ago as well. So we are catching up. We have a lot to catch up on and some brand new things announced today as well. Crazy, might be crazy. There's a lot to get into. I'm excited. Yo, Pimpact. That's all I gotta say. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. And again, we'll be discussing that, of course, later on in the show. First things first. First things first. For the first time in the history of the TLMC, we actually have results announced before the podcast. Shout out to Wax, because I know he's a big fan, and Wax, I'm sure he did schedule this to be the case, because often we have to wait an entire week. It's very, very common here that they release the results after the podcast ends. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then we have to wait an extra week to talk about it. So it just happened earlier today, less than 24 hours ago. We have the Team Liquid Map Contest number 22 results. Let's go. Let us go. First things first, there's a lot to discuss, especially in regards to the construction of the map pool. Previously, in the previous TLMC 21, the TLMC contest did have a little more weight behind it when it came to constructing the map pool itself. Here it is going to be a little bit different. So very quickly, the community vote for TLMC 22 has concluded, and now it's time to announce the winners and future ladder maps. As with our most recent contest, the top 3 vote receiving maps from TLMC are directly selected to be a part of the next ladder rotation. The 6 other maps will be decided through a player and organizer vote. We can discuss that with the full lineup, full 9 map rotation to be announced in the next upcoming days. I'd like to, of course, give final thanks to Monster and Shopify. Again, shout out to Shopify for jumping on, for sponsoring. I know the Monster has been sponsoring for a long time, and Shopify, they have sponsored in the past, and great to see them step in once again, I think for the 2nd or 3rd time, to sponsor the Team Liquid Map contest. So big shout out to Shopify and to Monster as well. Let's go. Let us go. As we are jumping into our results. Okay, so we had 16 maps in total. Coming in last place, we had Defender's Lab. Oh, a bit of a feels bad map. I did mention at the time that Defender's Lab, not the most aesthetically pleasing looking map, but as the map itself, like, I was actually quite fond of it. But like aesthetically, like
I was gonna say, like, I felt like you really liked it as a map, and even though like the texture had its issues, like I don't think it was an ugly map. It just had an issue that needed to be fixed. So it is a bit sad that it's all the way on the last place.
Coming in last place, a little bit of a feels bad, man. Voidstorm coming in 2nd last place as well. That's, I mean, we did expect maps like Voidstorm and Rorschach to struggle here. Voidstorm struggling a little bit more. Those 2 maps that I just mentioned featured the healing pad dead set in the center of the map, which is crazy. And it's one of the more aggressive kind of uses of that healing pad. And Voidstorm did struggle that much more. Coming in 2nd last place, we had Lockdown thereafter. Lockdown also not a map that, I mean, a map that we saw quite a lot of. Like, when it came to, we ran a lot of tournaments with the TLMC map pool, and we did see a lot of Defender's Lab from players. We saw a lot of Lockdown from players as well. I guess I'm kind of alluding to it a little bit here, but I would say there's a high chance that the maps I just mentioned, Defender's Lab, Lockdown, and some of these other lower ranked maps, to be voted on by the players from their side of things. If you recall, they mentioned how the map pool is going to be constructed by this TLMC contest, but also by some organizer voting and by some player voting. I can see those maps kind of getting better ratings and better rankings from the players when it comes to what they prefer to play on. Up next was Sanctuary 3. Sanctuary 3 coming in 13th place. Once again, another map that I was, honestly, that we saw quite a bit of when it comes to, like, what would survive player vetoes and actually get to experience in our TLMC tournaments. Up next, we had Rorschach. Rorschach doing surprisingly well here, I'll be honest. It might have the advantage of, there's true. There is the advantage of this. I believe Rorschach was one of the RSL maps. And RSL, of course, is a much more popular tournament than like our Open Cups or the Pigstar Open Cups or the Monday Night Weeklies, for example. So there's a lot more like casual vision of RSL, and maps that are featured there will have that advantage. So Rorschach did surprisingly well there compared to Voidstorm. Obviously a different map, similar features, and we actually did see Rorschach a little bit more than Voidstorm from the players as well, a little bit more. Up next, we had Verdant Temple coming in 11th place. If you recall, we did have a lot of. If you recall, Verdant Temple, I believe that was the was that the King Sejong Station map? If I good, it doesn't help that we have Verdant Temple and Old Sun Temple. Old Sun Temple was a 4-player spawn map. Meanwhile, Verdant Temple, I believe that was the King Sejong inspired map, if I recall correctly. Un momento. Yes, yeah, it was. Coming 11th place. To 10th place, we had the Old Sun Temple, which is one of the 4-player spawn maps, which had all these slow zones in the center. We had Wave Breaker coming in 9th place. Oh, that's like my secret. Like, I want Wave Breaker to make it far. I wanted to make it into the map pool. Wave Breaker was one of the more experimental maps, is what I will say, shaking and breaking a lot of the norms when it came to what to expect out of a map and map layout as well. It's a crazy map. To the point where I want to see more of it, and I wish that it does make it through, but we'll see. Number 8 is Rainfall, a bit of a smaller map, shorter rush distance by ground, more aggression, a lot of rain. They tuned it down, if you remember. They did pull back on the rain aspect of Rainfall, and now it's like, you know, sprinkling fall. So good. Number 7 was Lumen. Lumen, of course, being the being Talisman 2.0. We had Exarch as number 6, which was another 4-player spawn map. I think I would say it was maybe my favorite 4-player spawn map out of all of them in the top 16, regarding Old Sun Temple, Exarch, and Fear and Faith. So it did make it to the top 6. Meanwhile, we get into the top 5. Top 5, we have At Attorney's Edge here from Depressed 1. This map, if you recall, I was very much so on the fence on in regards to aggressive tendencies, but I will say that we actually got a lot of really good games on the map itself. I will say that my concerns were in regards to other kind of matchups that we didn't really get to see much of, referring to ZVP and TVP, mainly ZVP really more than anything, and we just didn't really get to experience much of it. So I'm curious to see a little bit more on potentially at Attorney's Edge if it does make it through one of the other kind of voting processes. Did make it top 5. Top 4, we had Storm Surge. Surprisingly high placement out of Storm Surge, by the way. Damn, top 4. Once again, I hope this wasn't influenced by people believing that this was a Storm Push version. Like, we kept trying to emphasize that because a lot of people were really, myself included, really excited about Storm Push in Pigstar Cup. And I would not be surprised if a bunch of people voting assume that this was Storm Push instead of Storm Surge. I guarantee that was also a bit of an influencing factor, unfortunately. But yeah, did surprisingly well here in regards to its placements. 3rd place, Fear and Faith. Oh boy, this is very high placement, by the way. As I mentioned, like, Fear and Faith is not a bad map. It's a resubmission. We did see it, of course, in TLMC 21. And again, like, it did kind of outperform both Exarch and Old Sun Temple as well. This map, of course, does feature the monorail system around the edges of the map to help with scouting, of course. Does have a dynamic center. That's something that I appreciate about it. It's one of the criticisms that I had about Exarch, was that Exarch had too much of a barren center. That was eventually changed, but here, like, it's a little bit more dynamic. It allows for some more interplay when it comes to main pushes, of course. So I did appreciate this more so than Old Sun Temple. If you remember, like, I rated Old Sun Temple much lower, just because of the terrain, but also the map layout itself, like, more so than the others. Coming to 2nd place, Washout. Oh my god, Washout did really well as well. That's surprising to me. Okay, Washout 2nd place. That's crazy. Very nice by Patches. Washout, to me, the issue that I had with Washout was that it didn't feel too innovative. when it came to, if you recall, we casted a good amount of games on Washout, and maybe this also benefited. We spoke about Storm Push earlier. Maybe Washout as well benefited from the fact that these two maps were featured in the Pixar Cups on a weekly basis for quite some time, actually. But the issue that I had personally with Washout is that we have casted a good amount of games on it because of the Pixar Cup featuring this for a long time as well, alongside our tournaments. But the high yields and mineral bases, the hybrid bases, alongside the destructible towers, never really impacted the games. So that the issue that I had was that it's a really interesting like feature that's being and the feature that's being utilized here, but like despite the good amount of games that we covered on this map, like it just never really factored in, unfortunately. Maybe because like this was mainly on the fringe expansions, and currently we're in a meta where longer games are rarer. True, right? Like there's a lot of all-ins happening in TVP, a lot of all-ins happening in ZVP as well, and of course the mirror matchups, a lot of aggression there as well. So because we're currently in a meta of shorter games and a lot of mid-game play as well, and rarely mid to late game, then we never really got to again experience like the greater aspects of this map. So that's the one thing that I personally wasn't too fond of, but again, really well done here by Patches to get into the top 2. And then first place here, Blackrock by Avex. Oh, again, the aesthetics were strong in this one when it comes to the references to Warcraft 3. Likewise, the map itself is an interesting one, also an aggressive map of the map pool. It is hard to defend the 3rd, 4th, and 5th bases, especially referring to a post 4 base setup. Like the bases are very exposed. I will say that if you remember, Avex did adjust this map and did actually create more choke points throughout the entirety of the map, actually, because it was so open and so vulnerable. That was a big criticism levied at Blackrock, was just how open and wide a lot of these attack paths were, and how difficult it would be to defend and to actually expand. And that was alleviated a little bit by the changes that Avex did make, which is really good. I do appreciate that. But I will say that I didn't get to really experience too many games on the newer version of the map. I fully understand that we have made some changes there, but once again, we're also in as I mentioned in regards to Washout, we're in a meta right now where we see a lot of all-ins, a lot of aggression, and very little mid to late games. So whenever we would see games on Blackrock, they would be shorter games, both on Blackrock and on Washout. So we didn't really get to experience some of what the map has to offer and delve further into it. So that is a little bit of a concern that I have coming into this. But regardless, congratulations to Avex, Patches, and Omniskeptic. As I mentioned, all 3 of these maps will be added to the main map pool rotation. So we're going to have a larger 4-player spawn map. We're going to have a more mid-size, kind of mid-tier map here with Washout. I say mid-tier, like mid-game focus map, and Blackrock, which I feel like does favor a little bit more aggression. But I mean, we'll see again with those added changes to making the map a little bit more constricted and confined in a certain sense, and adding more of like a defender's advantage, like whether we can experience some more mid to late game on Blackrock as well. But yeah, GG well played. Not gonna lie, to me at least, some surprising results when it comes to 2nd and 3rd place. Definitely catching me off guard. But GG well played. I definitely would have assumed that Exarch would have had like higher placing for sure. Especially because that was featured in RSL, right? Like that was my thought process. Another map that I would think that would do better here was like Sanctuary 3 as well, like true. The Lockdown, but yeah, again, bearing in mind that a lot of these other maps are going to be the rest of the map is going to be influenced by players and by organizers. I'm okay saying this. I said this last season as well. We are some of the organizers that did have a say in regard to the organizer vote. So the CranKy Ducklings, like we of course had voting power, alongside I'm sure other tournament organizers. So think of like those that work behind the scenes on Pixar Cup, on the Monday Night Weeklies, so that'd be TKL, on What Is TV Mondays, for example, on KSL.
Yeah, to make it clear, basically there is one vote per organization. So like for example, CranKy Ducklings is 1 vote. I think Comeback TV is 1 vote, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So we did have a voting there. I'll be honest, I can't quite recall what I voted on when it comes to our tournament organizer. It actually, do I give it teaser at this? The thing is, like, I don't know if like the voting has closed for that, so I don't want to influence any organizers. Like, well, maybe I do. I don't know. But yeah, I do look forward to it. When it comes to the player voting, of course, I'm pretty sure they did like a cutoff on like Illegal Act, and they got as many players as they could to also have their say when it comes to what maps they want. Like my prediction is that again, maps like Lockdown, Defenders Lab, Sanctuary 3, some of the more quote unquote like standard maps will get a little bit more high praise from the players themselves. I think from organizers, and that's mainly like casters. I can see a lot more of the creative maps being voted on. So I'm thinking of Exarch, I'm thinking of Wavebreaker, I'm thinking of even maybe even Verdant Temple, maybe even Rorschach. It gets a little bit more love from the organizers as well. We'll see how it's done. In general, when it comes to how the map pool is constructed, um, I'm still not entirely in love with it. It basically, if you recall, like I thought that we were being told that there was going to be a change to how the map pool was going to be constructed, but this looks very similar to last season. What I mean by that is that uh, the issue that I had with the previous map pool is that because it was purely done by voting, there was very little methodology behind the construction of a map pool. Like ideally you have some more aggressive maps, ideally have a mixture of like aggressive maps, like more macro oriented maps, like rush maps, like some longer macro maps, and some more like complex like something in between with some more variety as well. When you do it purely by voting like this, then you take any of that away, right? There is no construction of the map pool. It's purely by voting, which means the map pool can be a little bit more lopsided as a result of that. We were going to discuss this a little bit further when it comes to we were going to make a video or a stream about this, critiquing the current TLMC or the current ladder map pool and how there are a lot of aggressive maps. And I just spoke about how the meta right now is hyper aggressive games. We spoke about how in GSL and in RSL we had some really short broadcast days because it was purely all-ins. We even had like less than 2-hour broadcast days for the RSL because it was just non-stop all-in after all-in after all-in, just hyper aggression. And the map pool is a part of that as well, right? Like there's a lot of maps in the current map pool that do favor aggression, that do favor all-ins. There are some exceptions to that, of course, like Celestial Enclave or even say 10,000 Feet. But on the majority, like this, like the current map pool that we have does lean much more heavily in favor of like aggressive styles and aggressive builds. And lo and behold, that's what the meta now is full of. So that's the big concern is, of course, is there's no check on that, right? There's no check on that. There's no one to like vet like what the map pool would look like and any of that, just because it's purely by voting. So that's the big downside of having it just pure voting, is that there's no one to oversee that. There's no one to make sure and check that, I should say. So that is a bit of a shame. That is a bit of a concern. And we'll see where the dice land, right? Like we'll at the end of the day, we'll see where the dice land with what kind of map will we end up with if there's no oversight on exactly how it's constructed. So that is a bit of a shame. One change is that they aren't doing a map maker vote at all. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's you could. I mean, I can understand the rationale behind getting rid of the map maker vote, just because obviously there are biases there because the map makers made the maps themselves. So I can understand the rationale behind it. It's hard. It's definitely hard to make sure that map makers are impartial, or they try to put their biases aside instead of voting on their own maps. I don't know if like maybe that would be a thing you could do, where like maybe map makers can still vote and they can have their own votes, but map makers are like, they're not allowed to vote on their own maps. Like I don't know if that was already the case, right? Like that would like a rule like that would make sense, right? Like that you just can't vote on your own stuff. Yeah, like that would make sense. Unless that was already the case. True. Like I'm not a map maker. I know. Planning crew only have half a vote each. True. I think they're trying to open up additional slots to modify the pool to account for the voting. I would hope so. I would hope so. But like I don't know if that's the case, because from what I just read, so we got 3 maps from this voting, and it says the 6 other maps will be decided through a player and organizer vote, right? Like that's nothing here says that like Wax or the organizer of the TLMC will
And
adjust
it
the map
also
pool how they see fit. Like
and it also
from
says that
the
will be full 9 map rotation, so that's gonna
yeah
mean 9 maps.
yeah. So like from the text provided here, there's nothing here that states that it's going to be anything but voting, right? Like that's why I brought that up earlier. It's here, it directly, and this is how we opened up, right? The TLMC map pool is that it directly states here that it's purely by voting. That's why we brought up why I brought up my concern regarding that, right? But if it were like I would like I think you're insinuating that if maybe top two from or maybe top three from the TLMC contest, and then like two from players and two from organizers, and then we leave the remaining for like the discretion of of like Wax potentially or something like that. Like that would be definitely interesting, and that might help with that sort of thing. But from the text that we're seeing here, like it sounds like it's pure voting. Um, so I definitely have my concerns regarding that, and I feel like this map pool is a good example of like those concerns coming to fruition. But again, we'll probably have a more dedicated stream, a dedicated video discussing like the current map pool and the fallout or the outcome, a bit of a post-mortem of TLMC 21 and the current map pool that we have. I think we were saving it until this TLMC contest wrapped up because we didn't want to like, take away from this contest that was occurring. But we do plan on discussing that a little bit more in depth. Shout out to I think it was Timmy. I think Timmy inspired that. That's the Timmy. But regardless, congratulations to our top
So,
3 map makers.
so for future, because this was kind of like spontaneous, I guess, decision to make this like the post-mortem of previous TMC. Hopefully next time the plan is to make the like overview of here this was the contest and this is how it worked out on ladder, and hopefully we can do it like before the judging phase of the next contest, I would say. So you have like a few months of like actual ladder play, and then we can actually say how it went.
Yeah, for sure. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out when it comes to how we want to approach this. But regardless, congratulations to Avex, to Patches, and to Omni Skeptic for getting their top maps, or for getting into the top 3, of course, and for having their maps now solidified in the history of StarCraft when it comes to the ladder map pool rotation. And of course, shout out to all the contenders as well. And again, we still don't really know the full map list yet, and the ladder map pool. We'll have that soon, TM, I'm sure. We'll have that soon. It's also to bear in mind as well. I was talking about how like the meta is impacted by the maps, and it is. But it's also important to bear in mind that this is also going to be hitting with the PTR as well. Right?
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say
the live version.
like we're
So-
supposed to get a map change in June, so this map and also PTR is right now on. Do you think they're gonna put PTR live together with maps?
I would imagine so, right? Like it would make the most sense if it was lined up. Like it.
But does that
Like,
mean
I get the feeling that the people working at Blizzard don't want to, like they maybe don't I think we spoke about this last time. They maybe have like an allotted time where they can focus on StarCraft before moving on to like Warcraft 3, or because it's a classics team, right? So they probably have like an allotted time, and so they only have like up until like X date to like push an update through and to maybe like bug fix, and then they're going to move on to like working on Heroes of the Storm or something.
It's just that, like, considering that we're already on June 11th, I am concerned that it may be like the situation we mentioned before, where they just like put the patch live and it has some changes from the PTR, but they're not tested. Just make it live.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to be discussing that a little bit more later, but that did happen last time, and there's a chance that might happen again. We'll see. We shall see. But again, with that, congratulations to our top map makers, and soon TM, I guess we'll find out the rest of the map pool
Apex
and,
has something to say as well.
how the map pool is constructed. Okay. I'll say that after having a vote for so long, it felt very bad having my representation taken away and being regulated back to just being a normal vote. As someone who spent the better part of 12 years studying and impacting maps in the game, I feel like my voice shouldn't be weighed the same as a random Joe ladder. That's just me. I mean, for sure, like I would say that it does make sense that a map maker would have like ideally a different perspective and a more nuanced perspective on maps and maybe a better idea as to what could happen. I guess like a question that we asked earlier, could when it comes to previous like voting in the TLMC, could you vote on your own maps? Because if you couldn't, then I don't think there's necessarily an issue with having map makers have a vote and have a say. If you could, then I would just enforce a rule where you just couldn't vote on your own maps, and still keep that going. Just because, as we mentioned, right? Like I would imagine that map makers they have that different perspective and maybe should have like something more here. Yes, but I tended not to. I see. But that might just be you. But I don't know if that's the case with other map makers. I think it would have just been better if that rule was just enforced, right? Like you have your own private voting with like a certain like spreadsheet or something, and you just could not vote on your own maps. And if that was enforced, like I don't think there'd be much of an issue, right? Like. So I do agree that there maybe could have been some alternative solutions to the issue of voters being biased towards their own creations, right? In regards to the map makers. They voted very closely with the player vote. I mean, if I remember correctly, last time I want to say that tournament organizers had a really close vote with the player vote as well, and it got pushed all the way down to like what was remaining. But yeah, hopefully, I mean, depending on how the map pool was constructed, I would hope that that they're able to maybe go back to how the map pool was constructed and maybe give a voice to the map makers, or maybe another way of doing it. Because if you remember, I mentioned how like right now with everything just being purely by voting, like I would say there's an issue with that. If they did do like 2, 2, and 2, with like 2 from tournament organizers, 2 from players, and 2 from the TLMC, then you leave the remaining and have like some kind of consensus among the map makers with what to like supplement that with, where the map makers alongside Wax and Co are made privy to like, okay, like these are the maps that are set, like maybe you have like 6 maps and then you have like 3 maps to pick between to specifically try to have a more well-rounded map pool. Like I wouldn't be opposed to that either. Instead of the entity choosing that being purely Wax.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that may be actually the better idea, to like have the people whose entire like thing is designing like choose what would like complete the pool of the
how to
maps.
like finalize the pool. Yeah, like how to. I think that might be a better way to use map makers. But still obviously enforce the rule that like if there's voting done in that way, that map makers cannot vote on their own maps still, right? Like still have that, but yeah, I think that might be a better way of doing it instead of in this fictional version of like how to construct a map pool, that it wouldn't just fall on Wax to like have those final touches on like how to construct said map pool. I'm just catching up. Second place again, though. Oh, did Patches get second place last time? Well, there you go. Hope they put Exarch in the map. Well, I hope so as well. I'm pretty sure I voted on Exarch for my organizer votes. Pretty sure. So the public vote is only for prize pool. I guess not, right? Like maybe it's possible that because I was also hearing, right, that Wax is going to be changing how this works. It's possible that maybe Wax was looking into changing things, and then in the end just defaulted to this, and it's like, which if that's the case,
fair,
it's a bit of a shame.
in this specific TLMC, I feel like there was a lot of like delays on things where like like the announcements were constantly delayed, and it feels like it's not like, oh, you know, he forgot to post or something. Like it feels like something is going on behind the scenes where like maybe he's like in talks with someone about like either the sponsors or Blizzard or whoever. Like it feels like something is actually actively going on, and that's why things are being pushed.
Yeah, I don't want to levy too much blame and on Shopify because like I don't necessarily know, but I do know that because Shopify became a new sponsor this time, like there were other restrictions levied, like there were other like it was a little bit more complicated when it comes to. I mean, that's why there was so many delays with everything as well. Like there was a lot more complications when it comes to just running the event and trying to get this going. My assumption, I don't know if it is. My assumption is because of Shopify, because they're a new sponsor, and that's the one thing different about this map pool or this map contest compared to the previous one. And I don't know exactly what did happen, but I do know that like there were some complications when it comes to everything, and it did cause a bunch of delays, and maybe that's one of the reasons why Wax said something and then something else happens, because maybe they have more say in the matter, and they influence that, and maybe they disagreed with how things were being done or how the map was going to be decided, right? And then they had like their own say, of course, and a stronger saying as a result of that. Like I don't know that this is just purely speculation, of course, but like I would assume that might be the case just because that's the one thing that's different here from what we had previously. So I don't know if I would put necessarily all the blame on Wax for certain changes being done here, because I don't know like how much this is necessarily like on him compared to like other influencing factors. The announcement to the announcement post was crazy. it was crazy for sure.
But that's what I mean. Like, it feels like the entire contest was planned in a specific time frame, and then just things started happening, and it got a little chaotic.
Yeah, for sure. I'd like to give him a little bit more of the benefit of the doubt, personally, but regardless, I do hope that things, of course, get ironed out for any future TLMCs, and that maybe we can look once again at how the map was constructed. That's my big concern. Of course, it was a concern last TLMC, this one as well. But with that, of course, congratulations to our top map makers, of course, when it comes to their final standings, and we'll see what other maps do get added to the pool as well. Again, soon TM for the finalized map pool. Soon TM. Timing of plus a very rushed 2 GSLs. With how the PTR was scheduled, feels like everything was planned a certain way and it wasn't working. Yeah, it's I'm sure it was planned a certain way, then there were certain delays, and then all these other things happened at once. And it's like, yeah, it's been messy.
By
it's
the
been
way,
messy, for sure,
on this note, I want to ask, we are in June. It's been half a year of 2026. By the way, it's been half a year of 2026.
Nice.
But it's been half a year. Why are we rushing everything? Why is everything so condensed this year?
True. I think you're speaking a little bit about at least GSL, right?
Yeah,
Well,
like
that was our
GSL, but even
criticism about
like
GSL.
like TLMC, PTR, like everything is just like happening all at once. We're like, I feel like we have more time to spread it out, no?
For the other stuff, no. For the other stuff, from my understanding, it's more rushed because of BlizzCon, right? Like BlizzCon is now right around the corner.
I guess so.
And from my understanding, they wanted to have all of this ready for the Blizzard Cup or the Classic Cup, if you remember, because StarCraft was going to be a part of the Classic Cup, and they wanted to have all this ironed out, going live, and also like ideally tested and bug fixed before the Classic Cup that's in September. And as you mentioned, we're already in June. Like September's right around the corner. To be honest, like it's not that far away. So I would imagine that's why all of this is now being rushed. But I do agree that specifically for like GSL, I would say like it feels odd that was condensed as much as it was. I feel like there should have been more time for at least GSL, and we already spoke about that previously. Maybe they were told, right? Maybe they were made aware of the PTR and they wanted to like squeeze things and rush things as quickly as possible because of that. It's hard to say exactly, but maybe that's part of an influencing factor for GSL. I'm sure they are told a little bit more than we are by Blizzard in regards to their game. But yeah, like that's the big one for me, is that GSL having like less than a week between season 2 and season 1 is insane. It's just having like 4 days. Yeah. For the map, it was Garbo. For the classic, I mean, we'll see. But that is my reasoning as to why like everything's happening like now. It feels because of Blizzard Cup or Classic Cup or BlizzCon. That's around the corner. But here we go. With that, so that leads us to our next topic, though. And again, shout out to all the top map makers here that did make it into the top 3. And again, we'll wait to see what the final map was made of. Up next, we did have a podcast featuring Kaelaris. Shout out to Quickshots. Quickshot, of course, when it comes to StarCraft-related content. He was a part of EWC. He was like towards the end of EWC, he was thrown on. From my understanding, he was contracted by EWC to like do a bunch of interviews and make a bunch of external content, and then he found himself like running out of things to do, and he was like, I got nothing to do, guys. What's going on? It's like StarCraft. Hey, I watched StarCraft back in the day. Sure, I'll jump on. I'll just be a part of the show. And then like halfway through the EWC broad days, he just jumped on and just became a part of like the late show and helped make content there. So he does have some recent ties with StarCraft, and he did recently have an interview with Kaelaris, or a podcast. And shout out to Quick Show, by the way. I do think that it was very well handled. I really appreciate something that is quite rare, I feel, is that he was referencing StarCraft Historian quite a bit in regards to the interview that was held at EWC. And he's like, hey, like, I know you just got interviewed by the SC Historian, so I'm going to specifically avoid any questions and anything that was related to that because that's already out there, and I'm going to direct this kind of interview and this podcast in a different kind of way instead, specifically in regards to Kaelaris and how he grew up and getting into esports, and specifically a little bit more about StarCraft, that transition into other games. Of course, Kaelaris nowadays is a big part of PUBG. He of course was a bigger part of Heroes of the Storm as well. And the interview does take a very different kind of route compared to what we saw out of the StarCraft Historian. So so in a sense, it's a nice kind of like little two-parter on Kaelaris of all things, which is really cool. Like I appreciate that from Quickshot with how he handled this and how he gives respect to the interview that was held at EWC as well. I don't know if Kuri, you have anything to. I know that you watched it as well, and if you have anything to specifically bring up regarding it.
No, I did. I will say that I think it was a very well made interview in the first place, because as you said, like Quickshot, he was very aware of like what was already being done. As he said, he did different questions. He also, again, as you said, he referenced this, like he like gave shoutouts to like other StarCraft content that clearly he's aware of. And also the interview itself, it had a very how do I put it? It's very like not light-hearted vibe, but like very positive vibe. Like he seemed to be excited to be doing this, to put it that way. And clearly he knows Kaelaris for many years now. Like,
yeah. It was great to, as you said, right? Because it's just a different vibe. It's a different vibe when I guess you're speaking to someone that you're a little bit more familiar with compared to someone that maybe a little bit less so, right? That you don't have that connection with. So it was really cool to hear a little bit more from Kaelaris. Once again, it's interesting just because, at least from like an outsider's perspective, like Kaelaris, he's been stepping more and more away from StarCraft as of late. But we've heard this from like other people in the scene as well, from like Todd or from like the Muslim, where in the esports space, it's really difficult to juggle multiple esports at once, or not even that, but it's the perception definitely changes once you start working in another field, right? I think the Muslim, he was very much so talking about how like, you know, he like still really likes StarCraft, still really enjoys it, and right now his fixation is Age of Empires 4, but that doesn't mean that like he necessarily wants to like, you know, cut himself off from StarCraft. And he would often, whenever he'd be a part of like a show, like he'd often get a lot of comments saying like, "Oh, why are we getting this guy on when he doesn't, you know, he's not a part of StarCraft anymore?" He's like, and it feels like really weird in that sense. And it's a little bit similar with Kaelaris, maybe a little bit less so because he still continued to host StarCraft 2 shows, but very much so he's, you know, neck deep in PUBG. You know, he was, you know, neck deep in Heroes of the Storm as well, and in other games. So there's a little bit less of a connection with Kaelaris to StarCraft than there was in the past, when it used to be like his entire brand. Nowadays he's kind of like, you know, doing other things and in other media and other esports, which is why I was surprised when Kaelaris sponsored. I said this last time, when he sponsored KSRC, right? When he sponsored the Kaelaris Steadfast Roddy Cup, and he even went back into a talking point that he had during the StarCraft Historian interview, where for the StarCraft Historian interview he was like, "Yo, when it was announced that EWC was going to be dropping StarCraft, like I was tempted to even like start casting again myself. And he had a similar line here where he was like he's tempted to go back to his roots and do more like solo casting StarCraft on like his YouTube channel. Whether anything comes of it, hard to say, right? Because now it's been months since EWC and he's still talking about it and not really doing anything about it. But it's really, for me at least, it's really cool, and I appreciate hearing that he's still, he still wants to be a part of StarCraft in almost like a deeper way now than before. Hasn't taken that step, hasn't taken that plunge, but like is still talking about it in a very much so a positive way.
I just want to
it's cool to hear.
emphasize that like from the way he talks about, like he clearly like keeps up with the scene. It's not like he's like, oh yeah, StarCraft, that thing, and like he comes back like every 2 years. Like he actually actively keeps up with what is going on in the StarCraft universe.
Yeah, for sure. It's similar with like Zombie right now. Maybe that's a little bit more of like a reference to Muslim, but Zombie right now is very much so making a shift into Deadlock. And it stopped doing a lot of StarCraft content for a couple of months now. But hey, fun fact, because of all the PTR drama that's been going on, all the discussion going on, Zombie for the first time in months, she casted Monday Night Weekly like 2 weeks ago. I won't say like either 2 weeks ago or this week. Like she actually casted it. It's like It's like, let's go. Like she has not touched StarCraft in quite some time, but because of everything that's happening because of the PTR, like it's kind of like drawn her back in, which I feels which I appreciate for sure. But we'll be discussing that a little bit more later on. But again, big shout out to Quickshot for hosting said interview. Really cool to see a little bit more in depth kind of perspective here from Kaelaris and getting into StarCraft and everything.
Because the historian interview was more focused on like I guess the StarCraft history and the history of like Kaelaris as the like his origins. Funny enough, considering this is called the origins, but here like they focused more about like the organizations, about ESL, about like all the like how his work actually went as like a hired permanent caster, and it was like a very different view into like how the industry has been working over the years.
Yeah, it was really cool to hear him talk about, his time at the ESL studio, right? Talking about how the interactions between him and like the League of Legends casters, for example, that transition, of course, into host from caster, or even the transition into getting into ESL. Like he even spoke about getting hired for the first time and then bringing him on, and how there was like an extended period where like that happened like one time, then he just went off and kept doing his own thing, and then because of that experience and because he had a good relationship with like I think it was with Todd, and I think it might have been Apollo as well, but they like recommend it was Mr. Bitter. That's it, with Mr. Bitter and Todd, and Mr. Bitter, he recommended him to ESL when they started hosting the the EU Premier League, and they needed a more full-time caster, and they brought him on as well. It was like a bunch of content that wasn't touched on by the StarCraft historian, and we got to see that here, right? As you mentioned, like a little bit more of like the esports like caster role side of things, like more of the like behind the scenes of like getting introduced and getting his foot in the door, and taking those opportunities whenever he could as well. Getting into YouTubing and getting into like casting on YouTube as well and everything. It was definitely very interesting to hear, for sure. It always is with this sort of stuff. So again, a big shout to Quickshots, a big shout to Kaelaris as well, for of course hosting said podcast, and we'll see if we get more of these in the future. Hard to say. I know the Quickshots, I believe he does kind of jump around and does cover a bunch of different like esports entities, not just StarCraft or us related, but other esports as well. So yeah, I hope to see more. I definitely do appreciate the content that Quickshot made here, for sure. It was well done. It was well done. That leads us into some content made by Lad Legends and the Weekly Wine. We actually haven't discussed them, but and they weren't really on my radar. But apparently, shout out to Ace. Ace, he has been he recently started as of 3 months ago, so it's very, very new. He started his own sort of weekly talk show. Sorry, I say 3 months. Sorry, 1 month ago. It's even newer than that. My apologies. But starting from a month ago, he started like a weekly talk show where he jumps on with Mito and with other kind of like friends, of course, that they have. More recently, they brought on some of the Ladder Legends guys like Chatterzo and Gamer Richie, but on a weekly basis, they do kind of like discuss StarCraft. But specifically, they speak a little bit more about balance, about the current state of the game. Like that's kind of like what they fixate on more so than like tournaments or tournament results or other tournament or other StarCraft news in any shape. Like it's a little bit more fixated on the balance side of things. And yeah, it's definitely. I mean, there's definitely room in the space for that. I think we spoke about this earlier, but like all the big podcasts, they've all gone, they've all dissolved. Referring to like Remax or the Late Game or Meta, or the High Yield podcast or the Pylon Show, of course. They've all just kind of like they've all come and gone. And Dark Shine, true, Dark Shine. They've all kind of come and gone, and there's definitely space for more than just us. Like right now, we're the only regular StarCraft 2 podcast, which is crazy. It's the podcast. So it's cool to see like some more content being made on a regular basis for sure. So big shout out to Ace. And what we're talking about specifically is that they recently brought on some of the Ladder Legends guys. Gamer Richie initially. The Gamer Richie one is a little bit outdated because they brought him on to discuss balance and game design. And it was really cool to hear. I will say that it's a little bit more of what we've heard from Richie in the past, like when it comes to his perspective on balance and perspective on race design as well. This was pre-PTR, that's why it's a little bit outdated, just because this is before any of these big changes were proposed in the public test realm. But what I will say is that, again, Gamer Richie is very well spoken, and I do appreciate his perspective on improving at the game. Like a lot of people, of course, he typically it's about improving and not necessarily blaming things on balance and trying to push things in that direction instead on self-improvement, right? Like that's a big thing for Ladder Legends is self-improvement, and they kind of like fixate on that. And they also have a little bit more fun talking about like like what would you want to change and what would you want to propose, and then what would you in an ideal world, like what kind of crazy stuff would you bring to the table here. And yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun hearing from Gamer Richie. Again, I appreciate like his perspective of things. Just a bit of a shame that again this is pre-PTR, so they weren't able to discuss any of that together. But he is very, very well spoken and did appreciate that. The Chatterzo interview was post PTR and was a lot more, and we got to hear from him a little bit more as well. Chatter, like they're the two big names behind Ladder Legends, and Chatterzo, he's definitely a lot more opinionated and a lot more brazen with how he speaks, for sure. Like he's a lot more yeah. He's an interesting character to say the least. Like I wouldn't say he's the polar opposite of Gamer Richie, not at all, but like they're very different. They're very, very different individuals for sure. Was very entertaining to hear him speak in their weekly wine episode. But he also, at the end of the day, he also still had, even if it was a little bit more aggressive in nature, like he was still very much so in line of the idea of like, hey, like the average player is not good at the game and they should be focusing a lot more on improving more so than whining about balance and like crying out about certain things when a lot of their fundamentals can still be improved. Again, in a very different way compared to Gamer Richie, and when it comes to phrasing, when it comes to terminology, but like still kind of like that's the same kind of like the direction of like how of their perspective and how they think about things. And it makes sense because they're a part of like a coaching community, of course, when it comes to self-improvement, just in very different ways, I feel. So it was interesting to see that kind of dichotomy between the two. But again, if you have some time, if you want to listen to other passionate people about StarCraft, talk about StarCraft, then do check out the Weekly Wine for sure. Again, like these were special episodes where they brought on special guests. Otherwise, they typically have their regulars, which is like Ace, Mido, and some others as well.
I just want to say, the way you describe Gamer Richie and Chaderizo, it makes me think of that double interview with Dricket and Demonum Camo.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Very similar vibe.
Very, yep. It's a little bit different because I would say that Dricket was maybe a little bit more tame, like even more. Like I feel like the difference was a little bit more extreme. Here I think it's muted a little bit, but very similar.
Dricket and Demonum were like the two opposite extremes.
Yep.
Where Dricket was just completely polite, very quiet, and Demonum Camo, like he would probably insult you to your face if you wanted.
Yeah. 100%. Like it's very very similar to that duo from Exxon Gaming / Psystorm Gaming. So yeah, I think that's a good comparison. Yep, it's it's the EU versions, the European versions, the UK versions of the Dickets and the Exxon boys. But yeah, it's very similar. They weren't together, unfortunately, for these episodes. They were individual. They were on their own. But again, if you want to listen to some like-minded, passionate people about StarCraft talk about balance and talk about game design and talk about its self-improvement and talk about the state of the game and the PTR as well, and in regards to Chidozo's discussion and weekly wine episode, then do check it out. Do recommend it. Do recommend it. Especially because nowadays we're very much so starved for StarCraft 2 content in this kind of, in this kind of light. When it comes to these talk shows, when it comes to these podcasts, do check it out. Likewise, that leads us into, speaking of StarCraft content, that leads us into Zombie Grub. Zombie Grub, it was earlier today, actually, less than 24 hours ago, did release a video discussing the SC2 economy. This is, of course, in reference to the current discussion regarding the PTR. So I do appreciate this. Zombie she kind of spoke a little bit on this previously when it came to her initial impressions on the PTR and her initial impressions on the changes being proposed, on the economy changes specifically. But here it's a little bit more in depth, a little bit more focused is what I will say. A much more focused video, going through a lot of the older articles, a lot of the older kind of older discussions that were brought up specifically in regards to that economy. So when it comes to diving into it a little bit here, and again, I feel like it's a really well constructed video. I do definitely recommend it. It's not too long, so it's very digestible. I think that's maybe one of the more important things. 20 minutes long. You can definitely be able to indulge in this without committing too much of your time. So Zombie Gub, of course, is very much so against the worker change, and here we go a little bit, and what I appreciate about this video is that it focuses a little bit less on the worker change and the pros and cons of that, which I feel like Zombergo was definitely overlooking when it came to her initial analysis. I'm still remembering, when she said that she hadn't even watched or consumed Pig's tournaments and Pig's games regarding focusing on the low worker count that he's hosted previously, and there's a lot about the worker count that Zombergo wasn't aware of, but this instead focuses on how the SC2 economy is different from the Brood War economy, what makes the SC2 economy what it is, and specifically how, regardless of what the worker changes are, what they bring to the table, what they don't bring to the table, and what they indulge in, and what can occur with changing the workers, there are other aspects of the economy that have a bigger impact and that have a little bit more weight behind them when it comes to trying to change things and trying to adjust things. And I think it's important that the video fixated more on that, more so than just the worker start itself. It didn't get bogged down in that kind of discussion. So getting into it, and just as a bit of a brief overview, and again, it's very digestible. Do recommend just watching yourselves. It was a very well done video. It goes into, okay, so what does make the economy what it is? Discussing and comparing it heavily with Brood War, which might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, but talking a little bit about worker AI, how comparing it to Brood War, workers they mine much more efficiently thanks to the game engine and to the design, of course, of said worker AI. So efficient mining is one thing, but I would say the biggest thing that is focused on here, and again, she also goes into all the changes that have occurred to the economy throughout the course of StarCraft 2's lifespan as well, which is good. It brings context into everything, and it allows you to have a better idea as to where all these changes came from and what was brought up previously. She talks a lot more about the rate of saturation and kind of the rate at which a player does hit peak economy. I think that's maybe one of the more important aspects of the video itself. She goes into, of course, how the worker counts and the economy did change coming into Legacy of the Void, and during this period of time there was a lot of discussion sparked because of the worker change and because of the mineral patch change. There was a lot of discussions already back then when Legacy of the Void was first coming out in regards to what is actually the issue regarding the SC2 economy and better ways to maybe change it. First thing that was brought up was, of course, efficient mining when in regards to the worker AI, but the other thing was, of course, the rate at which you are able to hit peak and optimal saturation, and that is increased and that is exacerbated because of macro mechanics, referring to injections, chrono boost, and mules. Basically the idea that in a game of StarCraft 2 you do you get up to like, you know, 2, 3 and a peak economy, and you can start focusing on army very, very quickly as you expand. Like the faster you expand, you know, the more base you have, the more mules you have available, the more injections you have available, the more chrono boosts you have available, the faster it is to kind of like to get into that more like ideal economic game state. And because that's so fast, that's why that a worker count and a worker count change necessarily doesn't really impact things too much, because you're still kind of, because the rates of which the mid game and late game is still played out, and getting to that point as well is still the same, right? It's still the same, it's still untouched. And if the idea is to change the economy and change the dynamic and the tempo and the pace of StarCraft in any meaningful way, something would have to be done to that rate of improvement and that rate of efficiency more so than the starting worker count, because like the end goal and the end state will still be the same. And we already knew this coming into it. We didn't know it as in depth. We already knew that like the mid to late game will still be the same. Like this was already known coming into the PTR. This is why a lot of people were fixating a lot more on like the early game and how that would be different. But what's important is that through the process of testing of the PTR and testing and iteration, and more games and tournaments as well, we have found that the early game, the changes haven't really impacted the early game in a positive way that we otherwise hoped it would when it comes to build diversity. And shout out to Limbo for, of course, like for being able to dive into that. Shout out to Pig, of course, for bringing that to the limelight as well, for also having his own experiences. Our own tournaments have also reflected that as well. It isn't just the worker count change. There are other, like the warp game change as well. We've been very vocal about that, and we've already expressed that, how other changes in the PTR do otherwise benefit more turtle heavy and more defensive play, and they also strip away some of that earlier game aggression, to the point where the PTR, I would say currently, is there's less variety, there's less diversity than the base game at the moment, specifically in regards to like the early game, like the early to mid game kind of like state of play. Right now there's less diversity, there's less variation, there's a little bit more staleness there than previously, so it's not achieving its goal. That's what the PTR has at least brought to us. We spoke about this last time as well, that thankfully, you know, because of, you know, the crazy proposed changes made by the PTR, discussions like this are happening, and we're able to have a little bit of a better understanding as to you know, as to the economy and what could work and what might not work. You could definitely argue that I think that we've seen other people like make these comments as well. It's like, oh, we already knew this before. It's like, yes, but like attention and focus wasn't really in this aspect of the game for quite some time, and now it's brought to the limelight once again, and now we're having these discussions once again, and hopefully we can find a better solution moving forward. Hopefully. There were some other changes as well when it comes to worker efficiency, worker mining. I know that other people have brought up the idea of maybe pushing mineral patches further away from bases to slow down income rate that way. People have been proposing maybe getting rid of or adjusting macro mechanics. This reminds me actually of back in the day when Legacy of the Void was first coming out. I don't know if you remember this, Kuro. It was a little bit more connected to us. But there was a lot, I do remember there was a lot of discussion regarding macro mechanics, and Total Biscuit was a big advocate for getting rid of injections, if you remember. Like he was very much so of the opinion of kind of raising, also I guess lowering the skill floor for Zerg and making it more accessible, and there was a lot of testing done in regard to like passive injects or just reducing the amount of lava you would get with injections as well.
Sure.
And that was brought to limelight, and that was pushed forward in the Axiom mod, if you remember.
I was gonna say like that all peaked at the Axiom mod where Total BC, obviously the modders that made it, I'm not sure who the modders were back then, but they made like a mod of StarCraft that basically played very differently to the current StarCraft, because it wasn't just like changes like, oh, the injects were different, like they were also testing stuff like the merged command card, right, where like you could build everything from the command card. You didn't have to like actually like go to the worker and stuff. So
yeah, there was merged command card. I think there was no supply blocks. Like I think you said, you didn't have to worry about making depots or overlords, and you can like have multiple workers build things at once as well to like increase like build time or reduce build time. Like it was crazy. Like there were a lot of it was basically its own game, really. Like it was its own game essentially.
The ideas from back then, from the Axiom mod, I see those ideas in the new RTSs that are coming out right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
obviously, some
for
of those
sure.
ideas were inspired by old RTSs as well, because I'm pretty sure the command card thing is like back from Command and Conquer days as well.
Hmm.
But I see some of the ideas being carried over to the new productions now.
Yeah, it is a real shame what happened to the Axiom models. Like, and obviously with Total Biscuit as well. And if you remember, but the Axiom mod, it went public early because it was a leak. I want to say that someone, I don't know if it was Zook or someone else, but someone accidentally, um, like made the website public, and people found it. And because that happened, then everyone found out like, oh, what's going on here. Then they felt the need to like actually push it forward and actually like release it like in pre-alpha state before it was really ready. And I remember it didn't happen at the time, but it was like a couple of months after the fact. Like there was like a post-mortem basically of it that Total Biscuit made, and he spoke about how much stress they were under and how much pressure there was on because the game wasn't ready to be released, and they felt like they had to push it forward because of like the leaks that happened, and that meant that like there was like a more negative light on it because the first impressions are important, and the first impressions were a little bit more negative because it was still like it was still very rough around the edges as well, and they had planned to like run a bunch of tournaments for it, but like they couldn't really because of everything that was happening. It was like, so it was very it was a very unfortunate kind of like release of that, and it had a lot of potential, of course, as well. It had a lot of potential to maybe be something a little bit greater, but of course fell by the wayside. And yeah, I know, like just talking about the economy changes reminded me of that, because there were also a bunch of economy changes or just different macro mechanics being pushed. That would have been what, like in 2016. That was very, very long time ago. It's crazy. But yeah, regarding referring a little bit more to the video itself, again, it does go a little bit more into detail as to all the changes that happened throughout the course of the history of StarCraft. It goes into the importance of said macro mechanics, importance of the rate of progression, and the how quickly you hit that kind of peak saturation, how changes will have to be made ideally there to be able to change that pace and to be able to change the tempo and to achieve what it is that people want from the PTR, at least from Zombie God's perspective. And I think for the most part, I agree. Like there were a couple of like suggestions that were proposed, but I think even Zombie God spoke about how like there's a very low chance of some of this happening in regards to like, I don't know, like changing the worker AI, or I think, I mean, Fear Dragon, he was like proposing like worker collision and things like that. Like there are certain things that like maybe you're asking for a little bit too much in regards to the current classic team that's working on StarCraft, so it maybe won't be as feasible to ask for something like that. But what I will say is that I think it's a good thing that regardless, it is kind of like pushing that discussion further. I would say in a positive way, and hopefully providing and leading towards a better consensus. I think from my understanding, Zombergub's main something that she was leaning a little bit more towards was getting rid of macro mechanics. She even explained that this was tested previously. I wouldn't say pre-legacy launch, and it was received in a very negative way. I remember myself having a negative view on it as well, because like I'm a Zerg player, and the idea of getting rid of some of that skill expression of injections, and getting rid of that like it felt kind of bad to me. But
As a Zerg
as
player,
was
I
mentioned,
also agree, like, because I like my favorite thing about Zerg is the rhythm of the macro. The fact that you constantly have to switch between your bases and do something back home.
When playing Zerg, there's always something to do. You're always
Yeah.
like rotating between your bases. You're always like going back to your bases to inject. You're always going
But
to your
it has-
creep and your queens to spread creep. Like there is, as you said, like this
But because
constant rhythm.
because you have like because everything has like its specific cooldowns, like it's actually like an order of things. It's like a whole like choreography of macro.
Yeah, for sure. And the idea of taking that away, like I remember at the time, this was like 10 years ago, or whenever this was first brought up, like I definitely had a negative reaction to that, because it's like, because that is something that I do like about playing Zerg, and removing that doesn't feel good, but it might still be like better for the game overall if that is reduced. Or like I think even like it was just proposed that like injection, like I think for the Axiom mode it was I think specifically for the Axiom mode, I think it was auto injects were on, but if you did manual injects, you get like one extra larva. I think that's what it was. So manual injects would still give you like a bit of a benefit, but it wasn't necessary because it was already like auto inject. So it would like give you like a boost, but not as big of a boost as it is currently. Like I know there was messing around with that, instead of removing it completely, if I recall correctly. But yeah, like so I definitely understand the idea of people being against the removal of macro mechanics. But the idea of like diminishing them maybe a little bit and still giving like a benefit to doing them, but maybe just reducing its weight. Maybe there's something to play around with there as well. It's yeah, we'll see. We'll see kind of like what sparks from this and where the discussion goes. I hope in a good way. Something that I didn't like about the video, or to be a little bit critical, I think Zomragub, she kept making reference to something that I don't think exists, but I mean, I don't think it exists in any real like serious sense. Like it feels like a Reddit talking point, and I don't take anything, said by Reddit and communities like that seriously. I say that like YouTube chat, YouTube comments, Twitch chat. The idea that the Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm economies were like idolized. Like I don't see anyone of serious note like talking about like bringing us back to 6 workers or looking back at Wings of Liberty or Heart of the Swarm fondly in that way. Like no shot. Except there is one exception, and that is Artosis. I know that Artosis, like he has very much been pushing 6 workers for a long time. I think he's the only one who's like that extreme. But like outside of Artosis, like I don't think anyone of any serious note is like we want to bring it back to like Heart of the Swarm or Wings of Liberty. Like I don't think, like I think it's just like people that don't play the game or watch the game on like Reddit and stuff like that. And
I always say it's pretty funny when you brought up specifically Artosis, like the old man who yells at StarCraft.
He is,
because that's his thing now. Like that's his entire persona. It's the old man who yells at StarCraft.
He has become a meme. It's true. I think I said it last time how right now it's and like. The reality is, to be fair, he does have a fan base, right? He does have a fan base. He does have people that do look to him and listen to him when it comes to pushing certain agendas and pushing certain changes. So that is true. I will say that it still feels weird to take that seriously, just because right now Artosis, he's the least connected to StarCraft than he's ever been. We spoke about this last year in 2025 when it came to EWC, how you remember, I think you've made reference to this before, and I still stand by this. Like it was crazy to experience and co-stream EWC and live in a world where Tasteless was more informed than Artosis. Like it was crazy.
Like back in the day, Tasteless was there to make jokes. And he
still is. That's still his role when he's with State. Like that's still his role, is just to make jokes and just to be there. But like to see him like be more in tune with the StarCraft 2 meta and the current state of the players and just be more informed than Artosis was surreal watching like EWC 2025. And even now, like a year later, like the only thing that Artosis does in StarCraft 2 is like, I guess, RSL, right? The RSL offline finals. Like I think that might have been the last thing he casted, which was last year as well. But I guess what I'm getting at is that I don't know if like him pushing for 6 workers should have as much weight as it does. But again, like he does have a big fan base. Like there's still people that look to him. So I guess it is something that has to be addressed, I suppose. But again, outside of him, like I don't know anyone that's like looking back on a 6 worker count fondly. Like I don't see that. So that did kind of like bother me or irk me a little bit, because it's referenced a lot in this video. Like Zomragub, she makes a lot of like snide remarks about people that like think about like Heart of the Swarm or Wings of Liberty fondly, and brings it up quite often throughout the video. And to me, it's like who are we talking about right now? Like what? Like who's saying this? The Reddit. True. So that is the one critique that I have about the video, is it does bring that up a lot. But maybe I don't spend enough time on Reddit. Maybe there's a lot of people out there that.
Yeah, I don't think you should spend more time on Reddit, I'll be honest, because lately I've been browsing more Reddit specifically for PondCast, actually, and ironically, to have like to make sure that I don't miss topics for the show. Let's just say Reddit is very animated right now because of the patch. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sure.
And a lot of it is not constructive.
No, yeah, 100%. You know what? So, fun fact: I also have been, specifically because of the PTR and because of the podcast as well. Recently, I have been actually like checking Reddit like on a more regular basis. And by that I mean that for the past like 5 years, I would check it like once every couple of months. But it's because like we've been posting a little bit more for like Euthermal's event, for example, or GSL. So like because we've been posting a little bit more on Reddit, like I've actually been checking it a little bit more, and it's full of clowns. Did you see? There's a bit of a side tangent. Do you see someone made a parody of Lorimbo's post recently?
Yeah, I didn't want to
regarding,
bring it up. You know why I didn't want to bring it up? Because
Why?
SC Historian posted that on Twitter,
I
and
saw that.
he's
He
now
fell
miming.
for it.
He's now miming play like Gigi Machine. It sounds like he fell for it, which like
He did.
I was shocked.
Oh my
I hope
God.
he is miming, but it didn't look like he is.
Yeah, oh god, it does make me think a little bit less of him. I'll be honest, but so for those that are curious, Lorimbo, he of course made a post, talking about his experiences in the PTR, and then there was a parody post made because Gigi Machine, he beat Max Pax in Monday Night Weekly this week, and memeing about the idea like, oh yeah, it's clearly Cheese is dead, Kappa, and just because he beat him, when there was no cheese in that series. Gigi Machine didn't cheese Max Pax. Those are macro games. Like, so
Again, this is the post of a guy. Like, this is clearly the post of a guy who, like, sees the results. Like, who is Gigi Machine? And just like, oh, he probably cheesed like the one and only Max.
Yeah,
But, like, this is this kind of post where like you just see the name that you don't recognize and you just assume.
That's one aspect of it. Is that one is throwing shade at Gigi Machine that of course he wouldn't be able to meet Max Pax, and of course like in the base game I don't think in the live version of the game I don't necessarily think that he would. But one thing,
I think he has a chance, but like definitely not favorite.
Yeah, for sure. But Gigi Machine, like he didn't cheese Max Pax, but like that was insinuating that it was. Like the whole point of that post was to paint Gigi Machine as a cheeser and trying to push the narrative that like cheese is viable in the PTR when that was not whatsoever occurring in that series. Not just that, but I did cast Max Pax in the PTR recently because he played in the Pigastar Cup. I think it was in the Pigastar Cup. But we cast him recently, and Max Pax, he was struggling because he's very sorry. When it comes to greater context, that was his first time playing on the PTR. Max Pax, he had like one practice game before that. He was very inexperienced in the PTR as well, so he didn't know what the hell he was doing, which is why he could be out macroed. And upon casting Max Pax during the Pigastar Cup, it was also very apparent that yes, like he's playing blind right now in the PTR and he's stumbling his way through it. He was doing like Tempest rushes and he was doing like Archon drop openers and stuff, and he was having a very hard time. I think he got 3-0'd by Solar, but yeah, I don't know. Like it was just, but as you said, like to see the SE historian fall for the bait and like try to push the idea that like no, yeah, see cheeses is still happening in the PTR. Like that was crazy. Oh no, feels bad, man. So yeah, we'll see.
So yeah, this is your what is it? The moral of the story, whatever. Do not believe everything you see on Reddit.
No, yeah, obviously.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Sorry. Yeah, I was tempted to respond to the SC historian is that clearly like this post is made to like push a certain narrative and agenda regardless of like the fact of the matter. It's just again pushing like a certain idea, and for him to take the bait was very unfortunate. It was very sad to see. I see he showed up in the chat. Big has been talking a little about the low work start for a long time. I think Zarburger was hitting more at him than at Reddit. I would disagree because if you've been listening to Pig as of late, one, he said himself that because of testing that was being done, which Zombergub admitted that she didn't watch, he did say that six workers he was standing by the idea of six workers being a negative thing and how that doesn't accomplish what he wanted. But on top of that, if you watched his most recent video last week, Pig did say that, hey, if like right now, because of the negative aspects of the worker count, if this isn't achieving what we wanted to achieve when it comes to increasing variety and just build variety in general, and diversity, then to not do it, right? To not push it through. So yeah, like I would say that I don't think Zombergub is talking about Pig because that isn't Pig's stance, right? That isn't his goal, or that it isn't where he is. So unless she just doesn't know that, true, it's possible that she's like the SC historian and doesn't know the
Yeah,
context
because
as to
it
certain things that are
feels like
happening.
Pig
I
is just
guess.
like the face of the patch again. Like he
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be, but like just people like assigned the face to this patch, and maybe she's
Uh-huh.
talking like at Pig without actually knowing his point.
I
But
still
I
don't think
doubt
so
it.
because
Yeah, I doubt it.
I don't think so because she was referring more so less about the work account and more so about people idolizing Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm, and people with like rose tinted glasses and being like delusional, like thinking that those were like good games or good series. I don't think Pig has ever had that stance. Like even with the work account, like I don't think he's ever like idolized like those older like expansions and push the idea that they were better expansions than Legacy of the Void. Like that's not not at all. So yeah, I would push back against that and hard and say that I don't think she's talking about Pig at all. It has to be either Reddit or Artosis, I would imagine. But yeah, crazy. All Reddit posts exist to push an agenda. Sure, but like this is specifically um like warping fact into whatever it is they want, right? Like there's nothing, there was no like factual basis to it, I guess is what I should say, which is what made it as egregious as it was. That Reddit post, crazy. But with that, up next. So again, I do recommend checking out Zomagob's video regarding the StarCraft economy. I do think it's very insightful, and hopefully it does bear fruit when it comes to like greater discussions and ideally more constructive discussions as well in regards to what would be best when it comes to adjusting the economy and adjusting the game, and ideally having that in a positive way. We'll see. We shall see. Meanwhile, that leads us into Rainer. Rainer recently did make a series of videos over on Basilisk's YouTube channel. I do highly recommend it. Rainer basically going through his perspective and kind of analyzing his own games in the Thunderfire tournaments. That was, of course, earlier this year. Quite some time ago, actually. It's been quite some time since Thunderfire. It was, 3 months ago at this point. And Rainer got second place. We did cast it live, if you recall. So if you want to check out the VODs, they're all on our YouTube channel. Do highly recommend it. Really good games, really good matches. And he did break down his quarterfinals match, his semifinals match, and his grand finals match as well, between his series versus Maru, Clem, and Hero. So if you're out there, I do highly recommend it. I do think that he approached these breakdowns in a good way. He was very often talking about like his thought process, what he was going through, the current meta, what that entails, and he was also critiquing himself in regards to what he can do better, what he should do better. At times he was being overly critical of himself. Like sometimes he was saying like, oh, like, like I didn't even know that he's doing this, but I'm reacting this way, and then bam, he like scouts like 1 second later. He's like, it's like this happened multiple times actually during the during these breakdowns, where he'd be like, I do end up like doing what I just said that I should do, or I do end up scouting, I do end up reacting in this way. Like I should give myself more credit. Like he was being very harsh on himself, which I appreciate. Like it's definitely something that I can personally like empathize or sympathize with. But they're very well done videos, going through them himself. There have been some videos done in the past with like Cyril and Rainer like kind of like talking together, but he was just Rainer. I believe he was also doing this live. At times he was often talking to his Twitch chat or even asking for questions from his Twitch chat as well. So these are like VODs from his stream that have been re-uploaded to Basilisk, to the YouTube channel. There's also a little bit of that aspect as well. But again, I do think it was really well done. There were a couple of little things that were interesting to hear in regards to his own process and his own style. I think there were a couple of times where he spoke about like he's like I don't know why like I didn't veto this, or how he was talking a little bit about like the pressure of being on stage or the pressure of the finals as well, and how that was influencing how he was playing. How there were a couple of moments where he was being overly safe or overly passive, overly defensive, because it was the finals and because it was the ace match specifically, for example, in reference to the final game against Hero. So he was discussing some of his mental aspect, of course. He was also talking about like certain tendencies and certain trends that like either Clem has or Maru has, and how that did catch him off guard a couple of times. There was a game where Clem went mech, for example, where he wasn't really expecting. There was another game where Maru, he went into like early double eBay, like Arax-esque sort of style. And he was talking about how like there were other things that he was expecting at Maru, for example, that he was ready for, at least mentally. So there was, yeah, it was really cool to hear that side of things, like a little bit more of like hyper specific, like player versus player sort of thing, more so than like general, more so than just general meta. So very insightful, very well done. I think I said this earlier, how at times like Cyril can at times like struggle like finding things to say. What I appreciate from Raynor is that very often, like, and it's very Raynor-esque, where like we'd reach a stage of the game, he's like, I'm just gonna skip through this, like he's like, oh, nothing interesting happens here, or like, I don't know, like I'm just dying for like the next 5 minutes because I'm so far behind, so like let's just fast forward. Like he's just very he's very flexible in that sense, which I think is good. Whereas Cyril, he'd kind of be locked in, and there'd be nothing really of note to say, and then he'd kind of be stuck there at times.
I mean, that guy is very fitting for the personalities.
It is for sure, 100%. So yeah, it was I do appreciate Raynor's analysis here, and something we'll be discussing next week is Raynor. He does a breakdown as well alongside Cyril. I do think they're a very good duo. I do think that Raynor complements Cyril quite well whenever they do have discussions like this or content like this. So that's going to be we'll be getting into that a little bit later on next week. Talk about that next week. But again, he broke down all of his matches here in Thunderfire, and I think he alluded to the idea of doing this as well for his Little League Cup matches, for Little League Cup, and for potentially other tournaments as well. I think he said that he wanted to do it for Masters of the Game, but it's too late. Like, it's outdated, previous patch, previous meta as well. But for other big major events, like, he's probably going to make videos like this in the future, and yeah, it was well done. Was well done. That leads us into our top Wikipedia contributors for May of 2026. Ay. How many people did I beat editing just purely our tournaments? I got top 13. Let's go. Let's go. I got top 13 here in the May contributors. Meanwhile, Kuro getting up to top 5. Top 5 did make it to the mentions. Let's go. Of course, shout out to all the contributors here on Wikipedia. For those who do not know, Wikipedia is contributed by people, by contributors. You yourself, you can be out there if you see tournaments that maybe aren't being updated, or if you want to help out in your own way when it comes to tournament results, or even in other ways, right? Like updating player social medias, or birthdays, for example, or even updating like there's a lot that you can help contribute when it comes to the wiki. Yeah, writing biographies.
Like, it's not always just data. Like, sometimes it's more like just I don't say writing itself because it's not creative writing, but like just, writing down the events and stuff that happen.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of, I checked before yesterday, and the 4.4K patch clash is still not updated. So if you want to get some edits on Wikipedia, that is still available.
Yeah, true. You can. And these are the top contributors for the StarCraft wiki in May. Once again, I used to be a lot more of an active contributor for sure, like back in like 2016, 2017. I'd be the one that'd be like spam refreshing like Code A GSL qualifiers, and as soon as like a result came in, I'd update it on Wikipedia, and I'd be like fighting other people to like quickly update it before anyone else. Like things of that nature. Like I used to be active. Nowadays, less so. I just don't really have the time to commit to that. Nowadays, like if you see me up here, like all I'm doing is just working on our own tournaments. Like I'm updating and like adding VODs, adding streams, adding some tournament results, maybe working on like Euthermal's page. But yeah, this is purely just CranKy Ducklings content is what this is. It's for me at least. Kura does a lot more. Like Kura, she's a lot more active. Kura makes pages, like very often does make tournament pages for ourselves or for other people as well. Like Kura, she's a little more experienced and renowned when it comes to Wikipedia editing. So yeah, Kura, top 5. Let's go. Have you ever been top 1? Have you ever gotten there before?
No one has been top 1 except for Cynical and AJP. They're the two holding the top. HJP, as you see, is much lower now, but that's because most of his work is like in his modules and yeah. Bot, so like it's less him manually editing nowadays. But I don't think anyone is able to beat Cynical quite yet.
Yeah. he's often. I mean, he's just often making the pages for a bunch of this stuff, right? Like for Pegasus Cups and for just a bunch of tournaments.
It's that he's making pages, but at this point, like he has such a reputation that organizers just sometimes just straight up message him to make a page.
Yeah.
So he ends up like working directly with people, which by the way is not necessarily preferred. It depends on the situation. But generally, it's easier if you just post it in like the main Wikipedia Discord, because then whoever has the time can do it, and then like someone else can look over it and check for mistakes and stuff. But it does happen quite often where like if an organizer is familiar with an editor, they will just ask that editor. So yeah, that happens.
For sure. Speaking of making pages, I see Hyper One got up to top 2 this month, and I believe that's most likely purely off of StarCraft Evolution, where he most likely had to make the pages. This month he made the pages for the SCL Ladder Invitational, and I want to say for the code B, A, and S. I don't think
there were
code
like
C,
several.
Yeah, there were several like leagues for the next season of StarCraft Evolution as well. So made a lot of pages for SCL and
of
got
course,
top 2.
Yeah, that's actually quite impressive from my brand. Kashim is of course in the top because, as we know, Kashim updates Wikipedia always. Both Wikipedia and Aligula. He's very involved in all of those. And Bukun, I believe, is the most active Chinese contributor who updates all the Chinese events. So all the Chinese events that you see during the podcast, usually because a lot of them aren't streamed outside of China, like usually it will be one of the either Bukun or Ethan, like one of the Chinese editors is actually working on this on Wikipedia.
Yeah, not just SC Boy stuff, but like all the Academy stuff, or like the weekly Thunderfire events as well. Often the like Thunderfire sponsor like streamer invitational stuff, like Bukun, he's all over the Chinese scene for that stuff. So yeah, big shout out to all the contributors, of course, and shout out to all the others that did make it up here as well. Again, it's hard to kind of break the mold of like your Cynical and your Kashim and your HD Alpha and all the others, but every now and then, hey, someone breaks out. GG all played. With that leads us into our next bit of news. Speaking of SEL and StarCraft Evolution, that leads into the SC Evo 1.20 PTR. So PTR has been proposed. This is not live yet, and I believe even we have a tournament that is going to be testing a bunch of these changes as well, which I guess we'll be discussing later. Which is the SEL. I think the next SEL Masters tournament is going to be featuring a bunch of these changes, just to see what they want to keep and what they don't. I'm ready for more Marine Rax changes. Goddamn. Let's go. Do we have a brief here? We do. Okay, so today marks the beginning of the SC Evo Complete 1.20 PTR cycle. This patch features substantial reworks to Terran production, as well as some nerfs to Zerg and some buffs and reworks to Protoss. I'm ready for the Scout rework for the 10th time. I'm ready. Plans to run this testing cycle for about 20 days. During this, there's going to be some PTR playtesting. There's going to be a King of the Hill event alongside some other big tournaments, which I think is going to be SEL Masters. Unfortunately, there are some overlaps with the Thermal 2-2 Circuit finals, which will limit participation from professional players. Afterwards, we'll push through the PTR changes to live mod after the SCL Season 3 Ladder Invitational Group Stage concludes. Okay, so it looks like they want to do it after the group stage, before the playoffs. And before the Crank Gathers qualifier. Interesting. Thanks again to Crank for his support of the SC Evo event with his event. I didn't know this. Sorry, is Crank's event?
Yes, Crank's event is
Crank
Evo.
Gathers event. Ah, I didn't know. There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
So for those who don't know, the Crank in July there will be a team tournament, which is Evo. It's StarCraft 2 versus Brood War. And you can still sign up with the teams for the qualifier. I believe the signups end on like the 14th of June or something, so you don't have a lot of time. But you can sign up your team for the event. And there will be a qualifier, I believe, on the 2nd of July.
Yes, and I'm fine saying this. We're going to be the official English casters. We're going to be casting. I believe we're going to be the only English casters covering the event live. I'm sure there are going to be people covering the replays after the fact, but we'll be there. Bring you Crank Gathers event live on our channel. Most likely, though, it won't be here on Twitch. It'll be over on Chizik, which is, think of it kind of like how we cover cover GSL. GSL is on Soup. This event most likely is going to be on Chizik as well, which we have done before with Elite League, if you remember. True. Meanwhile, that leads us into our changes, the proposed changes of the PTR. First things first, we do have Terran changes, the racks. The racks decrease build cost from 150.0 to 125.0 gas. So a little bit cheaper when it comes to the racks. Decrease build time as well from 50 to 48.2. That looks like Brood War build times, but we'll see. Marine... Marine increased build time from 16.1 to 17.9. I would imagine that's to kind of offset some of the times here, just to make sure that rushes aren't too strong. Medic likewise increased build time as well, so they both have the equal, and alongside the Firebat, all three of them have all three of their build times increased by the same amount. Meanwhile, another change to the Firebat is decreased attack period from 0.98 to 0.94, which means it will be able to attack a little bit faster. When it comes to its attack period. Factory likewise decreased build costs as well, just like the racks from 150 to 125 and from 100 to 75 as well. Okay, so some big changes here to Terran production, as was mentioned earlier. Increased build time from 39.3 to 41.1 seconds as well. So it will take a little bit longer to build. Machine shop increased build cost, from 50.25 to 50.50. Vulture increased build time. Once again, this is to offset the factory, I would imagine. Wait, no, it's all increased for the factory and for the Vulture as well. Okay, and the Goliath. So a bunch of increased build times for all these units. Once again, we do have a decreased attack period for the Vulture, so it also does attack a little bit faster, and decreased Hellfire Missile pack attack period as well from 1.03 to 0.94. I believe that is the anti-air attack, specifically.
Yeah, because they should missiles to the air. So
yeah, that's I would imagine. And the starport, once again, a decreased build cost as well. So the racks, the factory, and the starport all have decreased build costs. And just like the factory, the add-on has been increased in cost instead. So that's kind of where that offset has been placed, is specifically on the add-on. Here, the control tower, and Wraith increased build time. So let's hear the rationale. Based on the supply count of Brood War Terran in the early game, even adjusting for the supply density of certain units, it has become evident lately that Brood War Terran production throughput is simply too low. This is especially apparent in the games where Brood War Terran is defending against 200-200 rush timings. Interesting. I don't know how often that happens, but sure. The changes to Rax's, once again, I should reiterate as well, when it comes to some of the rationale and some of the reasoning, I do have to kind of like, just, assume, make assumptions that what is being said here actually has, truth behind it, just because we don't really cast as much SC Evo as we used to, or eventually we get around to it, but it does take us quite some time to get around to covering like SEL Masters or SEL proper events, and we have not been covering the group stage of the ladder invitational either. So it's possible that some of these things are not necessarily like based in fact, or some things are given more weight than others, and maybe they should, but we just have to kind of like take it at face value. That's kind of the phrase I was looking at. Just kind of have to take it at face value, more so at the moment, just because we're a little bit less ingrained in SEVO than we once were. Changes to the racks, factory, starport, for machine shop, control tower build costs, bring them into alignment with SC2, with the SC2 Terran production structures. Okay, there we go. So the production has just been adjusted here to just be able to keep up, ideally, with SC2 Terran, or with the SC2 races. 2 Brutal Raxes now cost 250, whereas 1 Rax and Reactor costs 250. So again, we're trying to line things up. Because of add-ons and the SC2 Terran production cycle, like, things come online a little bit faster, thanks to reactors, and we're trying to compensate for that. 2 factories and starports now cost 250, 150, whereas we're just making comparisons here in costs. With production costs aligned, we are slowing the production of bio units, the Vulture, the Goliath, and the Wraith. The build times of units requiring a machine shop or a control tower are unaffected. We have also moved the Rax build time close to that of the SC2 counterparts and lengthened the build time of the factory by the same amount. Cool. The Firebat, Vulture, and Goliath have received attack period reversions to core, particularly in the case of the Goliath. The previous anti-air attack period nerf did not create the intended effects in the Goliath-Tempest interaction, and also made the Goliath unable to deal with Mutilus efficiently. Okay, so they do a bit of a walk back on the Goliath change, as that didn't achieve what they wanted, and they've also lined things up with the core, which is, again, a little bit more in line with Brood War. Spider-Man decreased HP from 25 to 20. This change reversed the HP of the Spider-Man to its core value. This is mostly a cosmetic change in terms of balance implications. there are relatively few, as this does not affect the amount of hits to kill. Okay. But we have been seeing a lot of changes like this over the past like 2 or 3 patches, which is like changes made just to line things up, which have a little bit less balance implications, but which are more lined up with like core values, which are more aligned with Brood War values. That has been happening a lot more as of late. Dropship increased build cost from 125 to 150. Increased movement acceleration. Oh, okay. And deceleration as well. That should be able to increase micromobility of the dropship. Previously, we decreased the build cost of the dropship from 150 to 125 to encourage players to use it more. However, upon further examination, it was not the build cost, the build time, or even the control tower tech prerequisite that discouraged players from using it. It was simply that the opportunity cost of not making science vessels once having invested resources into the starport is too great. And if a player begins constructing of both a science facility and a control tower simultaneously, there is not enough spare time on the starport to squeeze in a dropship. Later in the game, with more site defense and air units, dropships also become less effective. In the few scenarios where producing dropships does seem sensible, 125 seems obviously too cheap. Rather than try to encourage players to use dropships with a disproportionately low build cost, we are reverting this value to 150 as an incremental buff to help make the unit feel more worthwhile. We are matching its movement acceleration and deceleration with that of the shuttle. Okay, Jesus. So basically, they were trying to encourage players making dropships. They didn't, just because of the strength of the science vessel and just the value of the science vessel. So instead of trying to fight with that, then they reverted that change, reverted the cost, and made it a little bit more effective. Cool. Meanwhile, science vessel, irradiate damage no longer stacks. I didn't know it did. I'll be honest, that's crazy if it did. So irradiate damage no longer stacks. Decreased defensive matrix energy cost from 100 to 75. Decreased barrier HP from 300 to 25. Okay. Science Vessel's power curve suffers from 2 extremes. Early on, even after Radiate research is complete, Science Vessel seems rather impotent against StarCraft 2 Zerg. Many are required to reach the critical mass of Radiate costs needed to hold off late-game Zerg armies. After amassing enough Science Vessels alongside a maxed-out mech army, however, the Terran player quickly becomes nearly impossible to break. Ultralists and Corruptors, the best available tools, melt to stacked Irradiate damage. While these traits could be considered characteristic to the original Science Vessel, we'd like to have a smoother power curve in SC Evo. Cool. Okay. So now they no longer stack. And this should, as I mentioned, this should mainly impact the late game, just because that's when the Radiates would be stacking, more so than the early to mid game, or the mid game period. To ease the transition to Science Vessels, we're reducing the energy cost of Defense Matrix to 75, converting its HP value to 50. Cool. Zerg changes. Oh my god, the sunken colony. We're getting rid of colony rushes. Oh no, ZVZ. Increased morph time from 14.3 to 17.9. Increased total morph time from 28.6 to 32.1. Increased attack period from 125 to 134. Currently, sunken colonies seem forgiving enough to use, especially given the ability to partially pre-build them as creep colonies. That player is not scouting much. As such, we are reverting the sunken colony attack period to the core value and lengthening its build time slightly. I'm curious how that does impact when it comes to colony rushes. Overall, I feel like this is probably a positive change. Right now, I mean, it's always difficult to mess with the colony, just because right now it's quite important when it comes to early game defense, when it comes to Brood War Zerg, so we'll see what happens with this. Hydra. Decrease resource cost from 125 to 100. With very early Hydra aggression being more widely understood as fully scoutable and reactable, the latest nerf to muscular augments is no longer necessary. Okay, Scourge. Decrease HP. I wonder if this is likewise just like the Widowmine, just like another like core value change. And Infested Terran. Increased build cost. Increased build time. Increased attack damage. And again, I'm curious if this is core value or not. Last year, numerous units received exotic or gratuitous buffs or reworks for no reason, other than to encourage their use.
Okay,
one of these units was the Infested Terran.
What is an exotic buff?
True.
Do we have to add it to the list of phrases?
We got degen rushes and we got exotic buffs. Let's go. What does that mean? Is that what's Like it's like a buff from the Amazon? Like what are you talking about right now? Oh god. True. Whose utility is limited not by its strength as a unit, but by how difficult it is to acquire. In the rare event that Infestitarians see a couple of games of use in the future, we think reverting the build cost and damage stats of this unit to their original values, yep, so its core values, will produce the best player and spectator experience. With some regard for how difficult it is to use, we have kept a moderate build time buff relative to the original 25 seconds. Cool. The core values. I don't think they even spoke about the Scourge there. Okay. Sure. Why not? Proto changes. Shuttle. Decrease build costs from 200 to 175. Increase plasma shields. Whoa, we're just straight buffing the shuttle. Okay. And decrease gravitic drive research cost. Reaver. Increase unload stun duration from 1.12 to 1.25. Oh, okay. Decrease movement speed as well, even further. Yo, that looks like a core value change. Scarab. Decrease movement speed from 8.4 to 7.8. Okay. Lately, Shuttle Reaver play has all but disappeared from the metagame. So this is something that once again I have to take their word on it in regard to the group stage of SCL, of the Invitational. We did experience this in the most recent SCL Masters show match between Classic and Solar. I was very surprised to see that Classic, I want to say, went Stargate opener every game against Solar. And I was shocked, and he played a lot of Brutal War Protoss as well. I was shocked because it was so common to see shuttle openers and Reaver drops as well. Like that was the bread and butter, the meta for a very, very long time. But that was the moment where I realized, like, or where I recognized, like, oh, like the meta's changing a little bit here. And I only experienced it in Solar versus Classic, but I would imagine that this is alluding to the Invitational, where we've probably been seeing more of this as well. I would imagine. Placed by Gateway and Stargate centric compositions, this has been a drastic shift from the earlier days of the mod. It says earlier days, it's a shift from like 2 months ago. Like it was, but sure. Where Shuttle Reaver into Dragoon Reaver pushes were the norm. While we are glad to have achieved greater build variety over time, it is regrettable that in establishing the direction of Brood War Protoss design and balance in previous patches, we lost sight of one of the most iconic aspects of Brood War Protoss play and chose a less than ideal set of trade-offs. Unlike the tech branches ending in the Fleet Beacon and Temple Archives, where a Protoss player can choose to end at the Stargates and Citadel Vadun play, the Robo facility lacks the ability to produce a combat unit without the robotic support bay. So this tech branch is inherently very all or nothing. Okay, true. Something we failed to account for when nerfing the Shuttle Reaver. So it feels like they just want to see more Shuttle Reaver than there is currently in the meta, which I don't think is a bad thing. It is very iconic. So cool, they want to bring it back. Cool. Archon. Change to the Archon. Decrease attack period from 0.98 to 0.85. Gateway play still seems undertuned against Psycho 2 Zerg, but there does not seem to be any room for further increased unit production. Okay, so they're trying to buff Gateway play against Zerg. Archon's way to do it. From here. Carrier increase interceptor launch period from 0.27 to 0.33. Core value change. Okay. Arbiter. Decrease build cost and added the massive attributes. Oh. Previously reset the build cost of the Arbiter to its original value of 100 and 135. Upon further reflection, however, it is clear that it does not justify its cost, and there is no reasonable increase in power that we could give it. So we are reverting the changes. At the same time, the massive tag has been added to the Arbiter to give opponents more options in dealing with large Arbiter counts. Okay, cool. Bug fixes, none. Nothing to see here. Okay. Don't worry about it. So no bug changes. Interesting changes overall here. So winding a little bit back, we are going to be doing a lot to change the production of Terran and ideally buff the production of Terran, Brood War Terran specifically, to be able to have it keep pace with the other races. We'll see how that does impact TVP and TVZ, or just all Terran matchups. So these are big changes with Terran. Likewise, when it comes to Zerg changes, I would say it's mainly about the colony change. Right now, Zerg do rely quite heavily on colonies to survive the early and to transition into the mid game and to build up into their game itself. So we'll see if there's any kind of any negative consequences of this change or not, or whether this is still something that can be worked with and there's no real impact and we can just build up into the mid game anyway. when it comes to the Protoss changes. As I mentioned before, I did notice myself that we had seen an end to reverse shuttle drop openers. Looks like they want to try to incentivize that once again. We'll see if they do. We'll see if they're successful in kind of bringing that to the forefront. And likewise, we'll see if gateway play is a little bit stronger with the Archon change. Those are kind of like the big changes. I guess now there's more counterplay against Mass Arbiter, which I rarely get to see myself. But once again, I just didn't get to see the group stage of the Invitational, so I don't know how much late game we've been seeing in the group stage. I guess just for some greater context, when it comes to the SCL Invitational, we will be casting it eventually, but we won't be casting the early group stages. We'll be casting the playoffs. Playoffs, bam, we'll be jumping in. Then we can sink our teeth into everything that's been going on in SCL. And we'll soon discuss it. For now, though, let's jump into our first big main events. There's still a lot to get. Jesus, we're still scratching the surface, baby. True. First, we have the Thermal 2v2 circuits. The main event of the group stage did conclude. Group stage 1 at least. It was a massive event, of course, the biggest 2v2 event in the history of StarCraft, with a massive over $5,000 prize pool. Sorry, I should say $3,000 prize pool, but we have other incentives, of course, as well in regards to bonuses. Like the stream award bonus, for example. So it's been great to see Uthermal kind of fixate on that and try to push players to stream more, and it's been a lot of fun. There's been a lot of memeable moments clipped and shared around. Of course, the big one was Solar and Spirit, of course, infamously with with Solar getting upset at Spirit.
Hold on. So for the context, because I was watching that live, this was like the last series or the second to last series of the day, and it was the end of the weekend, the entire weekend they've been playing, and you could tell that the exhaustion has set in, okay? And Spirit was just, we don't know what he was doing. Like, some people were already suggesting that maybe he wasn't in the right mind as he was playing, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And at some point, like, Solar was just so frustrated, like, what are you doing? And Spirit's like, I don't know, actually. It just moved on.
He was very honest in his response. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know.
But there were more memes. So there are some memes that the stream didn't actually get to see. What series was that? It was, I remember one of the teams was Cure Trigger and the other one was Hero, I think, and someone. I don't remember. I would have to check. No, actually it wasn't Hero because they're in the other group. Never mind. But there was, I remember the team, one of the teams was Cure Trigger. One of the team was Cure Trigger. I don't remember who was the opponents. But I think Trigger, I don't know if this was a meme or not, but he posted in the lobby chat, hey, so like, you know, take the second base or something. Like he did something about the strategy. And then the memes just exploded in the lobby chat. Like, they were all sharing strategies and they were telling the other side what to do. And like, okay, so Cure, so you proxy, oh, and you do this. And they just started like giving each other tips on what they should do. And they just kept going. And I remember, because I was in that lobby, I remember I pressed start, and as the countdown was going down, there were like 3 seconds down in countdown. Cure types in chat, I will proxy. We just go in game. So there were a lot of memes between the players themselves as well.
It sounds like that would have been Cure Trigger versus Hero Spirit.
Yeah, Cure Trigger versus Hero Spirit. There you go. But like, I know that they did that in some other series as well, and Uterma was like surprised that like, oh, he typed in the wrong chat. But I'm pretty sure this was the continuation of that meme. Yeah, I think he casted like a Hero game on stream, and Hero typed like in all chat on stream or something like that. I don't remember. But there was that, but also something that I definitely recommend watching the other day is the communications between Trigger and Hero. Those were also very fun. Because they were like half in Korean, half in English. Because Trigger speaks a decent amount of Korean. I don't know if he's fluent, but he speaks a decent amount. So like, they were literally just half of it was in Korean, half in English. And they both seem to understand each other, so hey.
There you go. I guess alluding to what we were mentioning here is because there's the streamer bonus, a lot of the players were streaming their POVs. Not everyone, but the majority. The majority of the players, they were all live, whether it was on Twitch or some of them on YouTube and Soup as well. A lot of the Koreans were streaming on YouTube and not on Twitch instead. Bear that in mind. But there was a lot of streams going on, and a lot of player comms are available as a result of that. People like the casters were having fun with it because Uthermo, he was allowing for Rotterdam or Steadfast or himself and Indy as well. They were joining the voice comms. They were joining obviously they were muted, so they wouldn't say anything, but they were hearing like a lot of the banter, a lot of the dialogue between the players while casting the games. And that also gave for a lot of fun moments, of course. But again, the players were also streaming themselves as well. So do recommend it. There's going to be a lot of VOD content out there from all the POVs, from all the perspectives from the group stage, and ideally for the next group stage and for the rest of the tournament. So do check it out. The content, baby, the content.
So for those who missed it, the format of this event, why it's so chaotic, is because each round you play with a different partner against a different opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a individual tournament, but like each match is a 2v2. You just keep switching partners. So you have a lot of different people to communicate with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's the same format that we used last year, or that Uthermo used last year as well. It's a really fun format. As you mentioned, it's very chaotic to force you to play with everyone. So you might have qualified and made it here to the main event with a certain partner, but you are split away from that partner, right? In the group stage, you're forced to play with other people. You're forced to showcase your 2v2 prowess with other partners as well, whether it's Zerg, Terran, Protoss, just another race than maybe what you're used to playing with. Ideally, and it also incentivizes players to mix up their partners in the lead up to the main event as well. So we often did see players intentionally just get different partners and different 2-2 players to play with throughout the course of the season, which was really cool. Uthermo doing that himself, of course, having Clem on 1 week or Cyril on 1 week as well, Showtime, just to bring them on.
Speaking of funny communications, the favorite person I think for Uthermo to listen to is Sarah. Because there was this moment where there was like this huge battle and Sarah throws a fungal on like most of the Marines and Uthermo's like, oh my god, there's a good fungal, and Sarah's like, that's okay. It just moves on. And like Uthermo thought that was hilarious, so he just keeps being that.
Yeah, wasn't good enough for Sarah. Never good enough. But yeah, so the group stage concluded, group stage 1, I should say, and we did end up losing some players. So when it comes to group A, we had Clem and Gabe getting into first and second place respectively with 6 wins and 2 losses. We had Classic and Cyril right behind them with 5 wins and 3 losses respectively. We then had Shin coming in 5th place with 4 and 4. And then we had Shameless squeezing out in 6th place. There was somewhat of a tie here. We had Shameless, Beyond, and Laser with 3 wins and 5 losses, but of course map scores were different between them. Shameless having the best score out of all of them. Beyond and Laser were actually tied in regards to that when it comes to map score and when it comes to that differential. Thankfully, we didn't have to do any math there. Like Shameless still had the better overall score there.
I would say it's very important to point out that the way the tiebreakers go in these tournaments, it's the series, the series wins and losses, and then it's the difference in map score is the next tiebreaker, not the map wins themselves.
Okay, there you go. So with that, Shameless coming out ahead over Beyond and a Laser. And again, so Beyond and Laser, they are out of the event, and likewise Skillless ending in last place as well, also out of the event in Group A. Heading on over to Group B, we did have a much closer group here, less of a disparity. We had Lambo, Spirit, Cure, MaxPax, and Solar, all of them with a 5 and 3 score, 5 wins and 3 losses. So a much closer group, much closer group here, with them getting into the top 5. We then had Hero barely squeezing through with 4 and 4, with a more even score. And then we had Gigi Machine, Trigger, and Rogue barely not making it through the group. Again, the scores weren't too bad, but again, just not enough to make it through out of the group stage. So we do stay.
I remember particularly Uthermo praising Gigi Machine for his play, because especially on the last day, like Uthermo said that Gigi Machine did everything he could. Like he played very well, especially on the last day. So it was unfortunate that he didn't quite make it through.
Yeah, it was just a very intense group. Very, very intense group. And again, he is one of the best 2-2 players in the world, but he does not make it through. Seamus's teammate does in the other group, but Gene Machine barely does not. Barely does not. And that leads us into Group Stage 2. We have one final group. One final group. Group A here, we have Clem, Shameless, Shin, Cyril, Classic, Gabe, Lambo, Cure, MaxPack, Spirit, Solar, and Hero. So we have one more set of groups, or one more group here, and we're going to be hosting 3 series at a time. It's going to be a lot of games, a lot of matches, a lot of StarCraft, 3 series going on at once to wrap up the final group here for seeding purposes, I believe. Wait, whoa, hold on. Starting with the final group
This is
stage
the
2.
playoffs.
Yeah, I was about to say that this time there's no playoff bracket. Oh.
Yeah, this is the playoffs because Uderman was mentioning that on his stream that last season the biggest letdown was the playoffs bracket because it was not as entertaining as the group stage.
Yeah.
So this time they're like, you know what? We're just gonna make a group stage. That's just it.
Yeah, it's a really unique way to do this, but I do agree, right? So talking about the playoffs were that players, they, based on their performances in the group stage, they were assigned teammates. I say assigned teammates. Did they pick their teammates, or I think what they were assigned it? I can't quite recall.
I don't remember if they had some. I think it was just assigned, but like they avoided mirror like teams.
Yeah, exactly.
So basically,
exactly.
as long as they're not the same res, that they would just go by the ranking of the first group stage.
And then they just play through the events. And it was a lot more standard in that respect. A lot more standard, and you might be stuck with a teammate that maybe you're not very familiar with, and then that you're kind of stuck with them. But here we do have just a second group instead, a second group stage, the playoff group instead. It's a very unique take for sure, but I like it. I think I do agree in the sense that it does make it a little bit more entertaining. This was the fun aspect of this event, and we'll see if there's gonna be any tiebreakers. That's gonna be the most awkward part. Is how
there will be so many tiebreakers. I
Like,
can tell you right now, there will be all the tiebreakers.
it's gonna be complicated to confirm first, second, third, and fourth place. Like it's not gonna be easy. Sorry, I say that. There is a prize pool disparity between all places, so we have to make sure that we lock that down.
Like Usama specifically said that he did that to incentivize people playing, even if like they have no chance of being in the top. So every place actually matters.
It does. So yeah, it's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. That is gonna be in a couple of days' time. In 2 days' time, we'll be live with this event. So once again, of course, we do run the event ourselves, as we do help admin, I should say, myself and Kuro. And of course, should be covered by Euthermal alongside Rotterdam and other casters. I don't think Wardy's covered this event yet, but he might. It depends, just because I know he's also hosting his own championship, and I think that also kind of clashes with Euthermal's event a little bit as well.
Yeah, an important note is that Steadfast was supposed to cover this event, as he did cover the first group stage, but as we heard, he may not be able to cast for a while, or at least observe.
Yeah, we brought it up this morning, yesterday we brought it up during Pickerstar Cup, but Steadfast, unfortunately there was a bit of an accident. It was already made public, but he did end up having a bit of an accident. I think he was playing softball, if I recall correctly. The chat was talking about it, about how he was playing softball and there was a bit of an accident and he did have an injury, and as a result he is taking a break from casting until he recovers. And of course we do wish the best to Steadfast. Do wish him the best. Hope he does recover well. Hope he take care of himself. This is why I don't go outside. This is why
I will tell you now, he was probably inside as well, just to make it
true. Even inside is not safe. True. But yeah, best of luck. Best wishes to Steadfast. Hope he recovers well. Steadfast. Yeah. But yeah, do look forward to the thermal event, the biggest 2v2 event in the history of StarCraft. It's going to be concluding this weekend.
Every time you mention about this is why I don't go outside, I just every time remember that clip of you telling Darking to stretch. Every time.
True. No. It's all dangerous. As up next, we do have the GSL. The 2026 GSL Season 2 Finals did conclude this weekend, of course. We did cover it live over on Soup, and we actually just had the rebroadcast on Twitch and YouTube this morning, actually. It was a big event, big offline event as well. Top 4 did make it to the offline finals. Stay casted it alongside Tasus. We had Maddox as a translator. We once had the return, the Team Tuna return of Ryung and Solar. They did return as casters, and once again we had the same host as well. I wonder if is that listed on Wikipedia, by the way, the host in the event. No. It also the Wikipedia page doesn't even list Solar as a caster. God damn it. But yes, it was Ryung and Solar casting, and then we had someone from outside of StarCraft hosting the event. They did a decent job once again, not too bad. And it was a pretty intense semis. The semis were very, very intense. We had Hero versus Rogue and Kira versus Maru. Once again, at the time, Kira has had a recent winning streak over Maru in EWC and in GSL. And in GSL, once again, I was favoring Kira in that series. It was still very close, though. It was still very close, still very intense. Could have gone either way. Kira does come out on top over Maru in the end. Meanwhile, Hero also having a very intense series as well. Both semifinals went all the way to the ace match. We had some amazing semis leading to the finals between Hero and Cure. When it comes to the finals themselves, it was a little bit more one-sided here. Cure, he does come out on top, 4-2 over Cure, winning 2 GSLs in a row. GG, well played. S the Hero, able to come out on top. Once again, I did notice MMA, he was in the crowd once again. I did see Ollie in the crowd once again. I don't think I saw Fantasy this time, but I didn't notice the crowd as often as Season 1, unfortunately. But it was great to see, some other notable people in the crowd cheering for their boys. There was also a really fun event that was going on at the time as well. I don't know if you remember, but there was a competition. There was like a cheerful competition. So the crowd, the audience, they had a chance to win a bunch of mice. I think there were like 3 mice that were being given out. So there were a lot of really fun cheerfuls being made. Like, there was even a guy who like punched through the cheerful as well to use his hand as a part of it. It was crazy.
I didn't see that, but we actually know who won one of the prizes at least, and it was Periodista.
There you go. Este Periodista. But there were a lot of really fun cheerfuls with like Carbot drawings and some other drawings as well. Shout out to some of the foreigners that were there, that were traveling. There was even someone from Brazil that happened to be there, which was crazy. Some of the French community, of course. So it was great to see everyone getting involved in GSL, especially because this might be the final GSL of the year. We spoke about this last time. But currently GSL, of course, is supported by Patreon, by crowdfunding, and there is a stretch goal for a 3rd season of GSL, but we have not hit that goal yet. So as a result, currently Season 2 is the final season of the year, hoping for a Season 3, but we are running out of time when it comes to funding, is the reality. The funding is still going to be available because we're going to be hosting GSL CK on a regular basis, but again, the funding isn't quite there for a 3rd season, and hopefully we get there in time. Fingers crossed. I do know that there is a bit of a deadline as to when certain amount has to be raised before November and before like GSL Season 3.
However, I will say as a reminder that the GSL CK, thanks to that crowdfunding, the GSL CK was confirmed to be twice a month. So I assume we will be starting that soon.
Yeah, and again, we'll be casting it live as we did previously for the GSL CK. That is a fun, like, kind of very flexible format is what I will say when it comes to GSL CK. Up until this point, it was like a Team League format, but I think they're going to be changing their format moving forward. But it was a very fun event, and it's going to be held twice a month. So let's go. Twice a month, we'll be all over that.
That just made me realize, where in July are they going to put it? With the Crank Team League going on?
True.
Where are they putting 2 GSL CKs? Oh no.
Our schedule's ruined. Remember how July was meant to be lean? Remember that? Remember?
I told you to never say that phrase again.
I know.
You're jinxing it.
There's too much StarCraft. Too much. Once again, the congratulations to Heroes. Very intense semis and intense finals. Once again, the finals were a little bit one-sided, but the semis did definitely make it worth it for sure as well. And Kira did put up a good fight. Likewise, it was even fun to hear Hero talk about how apparently for GSL season 1, he forgot to shout out his team, and he was like, I need to do that for season 2 if I win, and he did, of course, give credit to SKT. It was really interesting to see some of the crowd, and it was even referenced in the winners interview how the crowd was like referencing Hero to like giving references to like Boxer and to Faker as well, because they're all on SKT, and it's just really crazy. It just feels weird. It feels surreal just reaffirming and hearing like SKT like and Hero like as one. Like it still, to me, it still feels very wrong. Like it feels like it doesn't quite
forever CJ Hero. He's never
exactly,
run away from that. To be
Yeah,
fair, I don't
yeah,
think he even
and-
wants to. I think he also like identifies with CJ and this.
No, I mean, GSL season 1, that was the good storyline that unfortunately was lacking here. Is that in GSL season 1, when it comes to the pregame interviews, it was really cool to hear Shin and Hero talk about each other from that CJ perspective, right? Like I think here he was saying that like, oh, you know, like if you win, then I guess CJ picked up a really good rookie. Like he was like they were still even
Yeah, I just
referring
want
to each
to-
other in that sense as
Okay,
well.
I
Like,
just,
it was really,
here's
it was
a
really fun
quick
to hear.
note. No, because I'm sure there are people who are hearing this who were not watching in the times of Pro League, who only like got into esports later on. Back in the day, back in like 2014, 15, 16, and so on, back when Pro League was still around, there were those big Korean teams, and what that means was not that they were just on the team, they had salary and so on, but they had actual team houses where they lived,
Yeah.
and they were like, basically when they were joining a team, they were often like teenagers, like sometimes even young teenagers, like it depends, like I don't know exact laws in Korea about that, but they were basically like still kids, they were teenagers who were like growing up together in those team houses, like as their like living place. So the fact that they were on the same team back then, like it's not just like, oh, you know, they were like just colleagues at work, like they were actually living together, so they kind of like very brotherly with each other.
Yeah. As you said, like a lot of them became really good friends, became, as you said, like very brotherly in a sense. That's why we keep hearing from Hero and Shin, and even Bunny, like he's often in their discussion as well. The other big one, of course, is the X Prime boys, right? Byun, Maru, and Creator. Like they all were on Prime together, and because of that, like their bond became very, very close to the point where even post Prime, even when they were all on separate teams, like they would often like interact with each other quite heavily actually. When even during the Pro League days, you'd often see like Creator and Maru like hanging out and stuff like that. But again, it's because they did, when they were very young, grow up on Prime, right? I'm sure there are others that are slipping in my mind. Of course, the Axiom boys, of course, for us, true, for them. There are, of course, others that are maybe a little bit less social, where there isn't maybe necessarily that connection. But for others, like, it's heavily stronger, for sure. Like, that's why it even surprised us when we saw, like, Marwa and SOS, right? Like, when they played 2-2s together. Like, that was crazy. It was like, what? But they were in Janair for a long time together, and I'm sure, like, there's also, like, a bond between the two of them. So
I don't know why, but when I think about Maru on GNA, my mind defaults to that picture when True was also on GNA. And,
okay.
And no, Terminator as well. Terminator is later.
Yeah. I think about Terminator all the time.
But I just think, because I think I saw that picture a few times recently, where there's that scene from, I think, Pro League, where True is about to play his match, and behind him you see Maru balancing a water bottle on True's head. It's just like, what are you even... Yep. That's what the teams were.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder if that might even be a reason as to why Zan is close with Classic. If you remember, Zan, he was getting coached by Classic in GSL season 1, and they were both on SKT together, right? Like they were both together on the same team for a while as well. That was, if you remember, that was back when Zan was like a rookie.
He was the rookie. He was the rookie.
Yeah, he was the rookie of SKT because he got picked up from Prime. Like he was on Prime, like Prime. Like, I mean, there's obviously a lot of controversy when it comes to Prime, but Prime, they were a really good team when it comes to like scouting talents. With Byun, with Maru, with Creator, with Zan as well, and then often like they would graduate to a bigger team in the end, and Zan was another one of those players. Where he was picked up by SKT and he was that rookie. You could argue that maybe Impact was like that as well, because he was also the rookie on SKT when he got picked up from Axiom, or post Axiom, I should say. But yeah, like that might also be one of the reasons why Classic was giving him some advice and coaching him in that way, and they even seem quite close when it comes to on cams, when it comes to the behind the scenes video as well, which surprised me, because Classic is not really that kind of person typically. So yeah, it was really cool. Really cool for sure. Regardless, of course, congratulations to Here for winning the event, and here's to hopefully a season 3. And if not, here's to some GSL in 2027, and GSL CK, of course. As that leads us into the Wardy TV Spring Championship at 2026. We spoke about this earlier, how Wardy hasn't been covering or casting Uthermal's event as of late, mainly because of this. He's been hosting and running his own tournament, which has also been clashing and coinciding with Uthermal's events. Here we have the group stage. I believe last time we had already covered group stage 1. We did already cover it. Group stage 2 is still ongoing. It's only, it's still quite a bit to go. Still quite a bit to indulge in. Looks like it will continue on June the 16th. Looks like there's going to be a big break in between some of these games. Actually, that break might be related to either Uthermal's event, or it might even be related to Masters of the Game. I don't know if Wardy's been hosting or casting that event. True. It might be related. But we do have Cure. We do have Cure. Cure, he's so far in first place in Group A. He's confirmed to make it through the group stage. We have Shin just behind him, followed by Zaun, Percival, Shameless, and Lambo. It looks like there's only a handful of matches left to go in Group A. Looks like we still have Cure versus Lambo, Lambo versus Shin, and that's it. So just 2 Lambo matches to go. Meanwhile, Group B, there's still a lot more to really get into. So it's still a very early group. Skillus currently in first place. Very impressive, by the way. Skillus has been struggling as of late. But he 2-0'd Rogue. He 2-0'd Trigger. He 2-0'd Beyond. Oh my, Nikita, calm down. It took a map of a Solar. Skillus, he popped off. He beat everyone except for Solar, and even then he just took a map. But Skillus, I was just about to say that he's been very inactive as of late. He's been playing in less tournaments over the past 6 months, and we haven't seen much of Nikita as of late, but here he just pops off. Crazy. Very strong showing. Taking down Rogue and Bjorn, and again taking him up off of Solar. Likewise, there's Solar just behind him, followed by Bjorn, Rogue, Geralt, and Trigger. But what I will say is that there's still a lot of matches yet to go, right? We still have a lot of Rogue matches, a lot of Solar matches, a lot of Bjorn matches, so the remainder of this group is still up in the air. My prediction would be Skillus alongside... I was going to say alongside Bjorn and Rogue, but Solar does have a stronger start so far. Who has Solar beaten? He still has to play against the Koreans. I want to say Skillus, Bjorn, and Rogue, but we'll see. We'll see if we have like Trigger like advancing up and winning from here, or Solar breaking through. It feels a little bit early, too early to tell. It feels too early. From Group A, like it's more or less becoming solidified just because there's only a couple of matches left. Looking to be Cure, Shin, and Zaun, but it all does come down to Lambo's matches. So we'll see. Technically, if Lambo beats Shin, then I think Zaun and Percival might advance on instead. True. So Lambo can still influence the upper echelons of the group. Still influence. Otherwise, that moves us on into my source of the game, number 2. We did speak on this earlier. We've actually had a couple of people ask us, like, why haven't we been casting this event? We did cast Masters of the Game number 1, but coming into this year, we have taken a step back when it comes to covering European tournaments. We did not cast the last Home Story Cup live as the B stream. We didn't cast this event, and we haven't been casting the Platinum Heroes monthly events either, and some other events as well that we've been asked to do. In general, like we're just calming down a little bit. So nowadays I have other responsibilities, of course, with my pet rabbits. So because of that, I'm not as free to go full degen and cast everything. Usually I would, but now, I have to have a bit of a more strict schedule when it comes to like waking up and being active and looking after the bunnies. So because of that, we are not covering European events live anymore. There's maybe an exception to that, like we might decide to go against that rule for like the Masters of the Game playoffs or finals, the offline events, maybe, but even then, like I'm not set on that. So most likely not. If we do cover it, it'll be via replays instead. So I do apologize for those that have been maybe expecting us to cover those events like we have in years past, but this year we're calming down on European events. We sleep. Otherwise, we have our group stage. Group A, we have Classic and Classic and Maru advancing on. I think we already covered this last time. But regardless, we'll just go over it again. Classic and Mario, they make it out of Group A over Reina and Trigger. We have Group B, Hero and Rogue advance on over Bjorn and Bunny. Group C, we have Cyril and Shin advancing on over Showtime and Percival. And then we have Group D, Clem and Lambo advancing on over Zown and Skillus. Very impressive here out of Lambo, by the way. He does take down Skillus and does take down Zown in a best of 5, went all the way to the ace match to make it through the group. Very impressive play by Lambo. Very impressive. That led us into the playoffs. Classic takes down Lambo 3-1. Thankfully, there is a lower bracket, but Lambo gets 4-0'd by Clem. Oh, God. Wait, what? Why is Clem down there? Did he just get seeded into the lower bracket? Wait, am I missing something?
No, he lost to Mario as Protoss.
He was Protoss. Okay. I was like, how did he get down there? I'm confused. Mario did defeat Clem 3-2, so Clem got knocked down, and then Clem knocked Lambo out. Really cool to see Mario versus Clem, by the way, for the second time. This is the second time that they faced off. Period, since Clem, in the past like 2 years since Clem started playing Protoss. Mario does barely bring him down, went all the way to the ace match. Would love to see those games. We have Cyril versus Rogue, and we have Shin versus Hero still to go. I want to say that Rogue actually has a really good chance to upset there. Like, Cyril's a really strong player, of course. He is the best player in the world. But ZVZ is a matchup that historically he has been a little bit more... he has that trouble in, and Rogue is a ZVZ specialist. So there's a chance here for Rogue to knock Cyril down. We'll see. We'll see how that pans out. Best of luck. As I want to say that Rogue showcases ZVZ prowess in RSL Season 3. Merely, 2 weeks ago. But otherwise, best of luck. Best of luck to all the players. And again, we might be covering some of these matches via replays in the future. Most likely not covering it live. I say most likely, sorry, we will not cover it live. No shot. Except for maybe the final day, but even then, that's most likely not. Regardless, shout out to Comeback TV for hosting the events. Wish them the best when it comes to the offline event itself. We just won't be as much of a part of it this time. But wish them the best. That leads us into the newly announced event, by the way, earlier today, merely a couple of hours ago, just before we went live. I was very much so caught off guard by this. It is crazy, but shout out to SC Boy as they're hosting the Doyo Cup. Doyo is, of course, another streaming platform. They're a Chinese streaming platform instead. Think of like Soup, but for China. It's a major platform, and they are organizing their own tournament here. Again, just coming out of nowhere, it is a bit of a Legends Cup. The Legends of StarCraft. It's like a big event here. We have $20,000 prize pool, by the way. Massive prize pool, massive tournaments. And who do we have involved? A bunch of old school players. Like, there are no modern players here. Like that's crazy. It's a massive prize pool tournament, bigger than we've had in a couple of months since like Thunderfire, basically. Like, we've had Thunderfire, we've had Little League Cup. Like, this event dwarfs, I want to say it dwarfs Maestos, it dwarfs Home Story Cup as well. So a crazy massive event, but it is not for any active player. Crazy, but crazy.
I mean, Jeshi and Cyan play a bit in things. Kaelaris sometimes plays in things, but very rarely.
He plays 2v2s.
Mostly 2v2.
he plays 2v2s nowadays.
Scarlet plays show matches.
I will say that Scarlet is the most informed player here. 100%. Like, usually if I'm looking at this bracket, if I'm looking at these players, hold on, let's go through them. So Protoss, we have Cyan, Deer, he hasn't played since like 2020.
Yeah, he hasn't played like 8 years probably or something. I don't.
I want to double check. I want to see when did Deer last play. Okay, so let's see. So I said 2020. Yes, 2020. It has been 6 years. Unironically, it's been 6 years since Deer has played StarCraft.
I just want to emphasize, it's not 6 years since he showed up in it. It's 6 years since we heard from him at all. Like, he just disappeared. Yeah. We have not heard from him.
I think, didn't Crank meet up with Deer post retirement? I think he did, right?
Maybe.
Do you remember that?
Maybe. I don't.
Do you remember when he met up with Deer and they had the selfie where they were climbing mountains?
Maybe.
I'm pretty sure that was post Deer retirement. I'm pretty sure. But outside of that, yeah, Deer has been MIA. So Deer, he has not played in 6 years. We have Jeshi, we have Maxed, of course, as well. Maxed, also a retired player. As Crow was alluding to, Jeshi and Cyan, they still play a little bit, but they are not in peak condition.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
They've been struggling against the other Chinese players, the young ones,
Also,
like Triple H
yeah.
and Millennium Fox and Nanu. Like they've been having a harder time against them.
Well, so correct me if I'm wrong, but Max said is more of a caster nowadays. I think he appears in some of the SC2 events as a caster.
No, yeah. So when I say these guys still play, I was speaking
Yeah,
about specifically Cyan and Jeshi, not Max. Max does not play, not anymore. But yes, he mainly does casting and like other content. So he's not an active player. We have Neeb, who we have heard of as of late, if you remember. Neeb, he, from my understanding, is living in Korea. By the way, he's not in NA. He's been in Korea this entire time. I think
secretly
it was I think Trigger.
hiding.
Secret, yes, in secret, he's been in Korea. He's been outside of the public limelight, of course. I want to say, was he a part of the volleyball? No, it wasn't volleyball. It was indoor. It was like indoor football.
Yeah, they
was
do
he
like
there?
indoor football mostly.
Yeah, I think he might have been there, but I remember
Okay.
Trigger speaking on it and saying that Neeb was in Korea. Just out of nowhere. It's like, oh my god. But yeah, Neeb's been around in Korea, but he has not been playing in quite some
Do you
time
think
either.
Neeb has been there, secretly training, waiting for the right moment?
Not at all. No, not at all.
That would be funny.
Not at all.
No.
But yeah, Neeb, he hasn't played in a couple of years. Trap, Trap is the most recent of the retired players. Actually, no, I think Oliveira is. No, yeah, I think Trap, because Trap, he retired last year, right? Because remember, Trap, for those who don't know, Trap, he came back, he was competing, he was getting good, and I think it was beginning of last year or sometime last year where Trap suddenly stopped playing. And of course I reached out and you know who answered, you know, old mate GGE Mini, and Trap is a pappy.
Yeah,
he's a pappy.
he said
like
that he has a kid now and he wants to dedicate his time to his family.
Yeah. Trap became a dad, so Trap that's why Trap retired. And again, I want to say it was last year. Let me just double check that.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah,
because it was recent.
Yaku is saying last I heard he was doing math with Sarah's brother. But I might have dreamed that. I wouldn't be surprised actually, but I do recall something vaguely, because I do think Sarah's brother is in Korea, the Protosir.
So Trap, he last played December of 2024, so coming into 2025. Because I remember it was early 2025, like January, where we found out about his daughter, I think, about his child. So beginning of last year. We then have Coffee. Coffee, of course, he also did retire quite some time ago. More recent retirement, though. Like, he's still been playing a little bit. Kind of like Cyan, kind of like Jeshi. Fantasy. Like, he is, like, so many people had their hearts broken because Fantasy, he came back after military. He was doing really well. And then suddenly, it was only a couple months in, Fantasy retired to do what? To compete in Brood War. He went to play in Brood War. And to be fair, he's been doing really well in Brood War, but it was sad because I think initially, like, he promised that he wouldn't switch, and then he did. So he came back out military for service. He played in SC2 for a little bit, and then he switched to Brood War, where he did really well. To be fair, he did compete well. Then that led to Innovation, who I think last we saw of Innovation was a photo of him with his brother at their cafe. Like, that was like,
yeah,
I think it was this year, right?
Innovation is the one person we actually hear about frequently, but not from him, but because he shows up for his brother's matches.
Yeah.
Because his younger brother is a pro in League of Legends, and he's actually doing really well.
Yeah. So because of that, we have seen a little bit more of Innovation cheering for his brother or working at their family cafe with his brother as well. I believe they do both work there. So it's also been a couple of years since we've seen some Innovation. Who else do we have? We have Kaelaris, Diego. Again, Diego is also basically retired. As Kuro was mentioning, we have seen Diego recently, but in 2v2 tournaments. He plays in New Thermal's league every now and then. Even then, he's not a regular, but he plays every now and then. So he's, a little bit active in that sense. Then have Oliveira, he did play in a show match during, I think it was he played in a show match in the Thunderfire event, if I recall correctly. But he did recently play in a show match, but outside of that, again, he retired quite some time ago as well.
I think they invited Sue for that one. It was Oliveira, Sue, DRG, I think, and someone else.
Yeah, and I misspoke. Sorry, it wasn't Thunderfire. It was the Lily Cup. That's it. It was in the Lily Cup event. That's where they had like a fun, like, old school show match. with, as you said, like Oliveira and Sue and some of these other guys. But they had them there. Who else do we have? We have TY, who also, if I remember correctly, TY, he went to Brood War, right? Am I crazy? Or did he not?
I just remember that TY tried casting for a bit, and then I don't know what happened.
He was casting for a bit. Yeah, he was casting for a bit. He also retired relatively recently, in 2024. Yeah, he went to. I'm pretty sure he went to Brood War because I'm looking at his recent results here, and he was playing in some SC Evo StarCraft 1 events and some like the Tasteless like Time Warp event as well. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe he did switch to Brood War for a bit. I don't know if he's still actively playing in Brood War. Hold on. I can just look it up. TY Brood War.
You know, you can, if you are on TY's Wikipedia page, you can actually press the arrow next to the puzzle, and it shows you the pages on other games from this player.
It's too late. I already moved on. I already looked it up. Yes. So he was competing in Brood War up until last year, 2025 September. So he did switch to Brood War as I recalled in my memory. But it looks like he's also retired from Brood War recently as well. So he has that Brood War skill, I suppose. I guess. But it looks like he's also stepped away because I remember he was streaming as well. Yeah. Then we have XY.
I was just going to say this makes me want to see as an SC Evo tournament, but when you have actual Brood War players versus StarCraft players. Like when you invite, I'm not saying like Flash and Jadong maybe, like unless they're willing to, but like invite like actual people actively competing in Brood War to play in Evo.
I would do that, but only for the people that have played SC2 at a high level before. So I'm thinking of like True, I'm thinking of TY, I'm thinking of Fantasy. Like I wouldn't want like I don't think I would want to see like Lava or like Snow or Shuttle or Light. Like I wouldn't want to see players who are unfamiliar with the mechanics of StarCraft 2 to play StarCraft Evolution because I feel like they'd be at a bigger disadvantage. I'd want like ex-SC2 players that made the switch to Brood War to now play StarCraft Evolution because they have that experience at least. So like I'm thinking of like Flash and Jadong, they would count in that respect. Soul Key would count in that respect as well. As I mentioned, like True, TY, like Fantasy, these guys that have had that like crossover, like those are the ones that I would want to see like play SC Evo. So that they'd have like a little bit more experience with like the engine that is SC2 and more recent experience as well. I want to say there's another recent one. Rain. Oh, Rain. How could I forget? Rain as well. True. I'd want him in. Get him in.
I miss Rain. We need more Rain in this scene. And
we need.
So for those who don't know, because I'm sure there are people here who don't remember Rain because it was so long ago, but he was a really good Protoss player, first off. He was a really good player, but he was also like the least serious person around. And he would just make everybody else crack up. He was that kind of person. It was just very funny in every event he was in.
For sure. We always miss Rain. Always. I noticed Yaku in the chat as well. Yes, I noticed. For Zerg, we have Impact. In fact, that was I made a tweet about it earlier. Impact is the big one, of course. Like both literally and figuratively as well.
Yes,
like,
my God. He is the big one. But I want to point out, this is an offline event. So we'll actually see Impact at an offline event.
Yeah, I said it during the pre-show, like when we were in the countdown timer. When we saw this was announced, I was like, "Yo, for the fans, for fun, we gotta get Impact on stage and we gotta get him shirtless. We gotta take off the shirt
and this is how everybody gets banned."
True. For those who don't know, Impact post-retirement, specifically post-military service, Impact, he went hard in bodybuilding and to the point where he was competing and winning events as well. And he became like an influencer in that space in Korea.
Yeah, he's like sponsored by like, I don't know if it was like Nike or something, like some of the sports brands, and like he has like his photos like flexing on Instagram. Like he just went full on bodybuilding, which is hilarious considering that like he was like his whole image was like the nerdy kid. He had like the big glasses. He was very big, but like he was just very small as well. He was just smaller than most people, and now he just went full on bodybuilding. So like the change is just fascinating.
It's crazy. I love some of the other things that we've heard surrounding Impact as well, like MMA infamously, right? Where when he saw Impact MMA, he was like, oh, I gotta hit the gym now. He was like, I can't let this kid just outshine me. Like motivating other people around him to also like, start working on themselves as well again. But yeah, Impact, he had like the biggest like kind of like change out of anyone out there.
Biggest
So,
transformation, really, from what
yeah, that's what I was
from
looking for.
what he
Biggest
was
transformation.
associated with originally.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing him again because for those who don't know, a big Impact fan. When it comes to when he was on Axiom, of course, we're big Axiom fans here on the CranKy Ducklings and big Impact fans. So happy to see him playing again after so long.
Iceland says that lifting regularly does have impact.
True. Not wrong. But yeah, it'll be great to see him again, and we'll see how his play is. Of course, they need to get him like a special keyboard, otherwise he's gonna break it. He's gonna they're gonna get him like a steel keyboard.
I mean, they could.
It'll be crazy.
If they wanted to, they could play it up for the memes. If he was into
for the memes,
Like,
yeah,
that's
what
the
I
memes,
mean.
they could get him like a steel keyboard and like. But it
Yeah.
depends. It depends how serious this event is supposed to be, because obviously, as we said, those are retired players. They are big names, but they are most of them, at least, pretty much all of them, are not actively competing, so they can make it more for fun, like just play around with it.
I mean, again, like you say, is it going to be serious? I mean, there's a lot of serious money behind it for sure. But as you said, like this is for the fans. That's what this event is, right? Like that, like to have Impact, we have Scarlet as well, who's a big fan favorite. But as you mentioned, like I think Scarlet is probably the favorite player coming into this event because Scarlet is still active, in a much more serious fashion, more so than anyone else here. So Scarlet is coming in with already that skill set. It's going to be up to all these other players to grind leading into this, right? Like it's going to be on them to actually try to ladder and try to regain their lost skill in the weeks that we have leading up to this event.
When you started talking about Impact's steel keyboard, I'm just imagining like a full WWE where they all enter the stage with a theme song and like they have like a whole like theme around them.
Yeah, have fun with it. Like that's what I wanted out of the Home Story Cup that was meant to be WWE themed, and they did nothing with it. They had the belt as the trophy, but they could have done so much more with like intros and songs and stuff. And I will see what they do. Like I would hope that they fan service the hell out of this place, or the hell out of this event, because that's what this event is. Again, you're not watching this for high level play. You're watching this just to catch up with everyone and to see everyone competing again on a big stage after so many years. And of course, Sue. Sue is going to be the last one as well. Sue, who also is a more recent retiree. Sue, he retired in 2025, right? Like he retired like last year. He retired like as Pandemic. He posted his documentary. He's like, oh no, like he didn't know that he was going to be retiring at the time. But yeah, just double checking, he did retire. Sorry, end of 2024. So similar to Trap. End of 2024 is when he did retire. So again, there are certain players here like Sue, like Trap, that retired in more recent times that it'll be easier to kind of get back into the swing of things. There are others like Deer who haven't played in 6 years. It'll be much more difficult for them. So we'll see. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun to kind of like see how everyone is looking leading into this event and yeah, what their practice is like and how good they get. Crazy. I'm watching so I can pretend it's 2018 again. True. It's for the old people in the chat that were fans of everyone. True. We haven't seen the groups yet, but again, the group stage is going to be in around 2 weeks' time, and we'll do our best to cast it. So I don't think there's confirmation yet, but because this event is sponsored by Doyu, there is a chance that kind of like Soup and kind of like Jijik events that they're going to be limiting streams to that platform. Even if they do that, because we've been willing to do Soup and willing to do Jijik, I think we might try to likewise also stream on Doyu as well. Because if we don't, no one will, to be honest. Like, no one will. And I say that with confidence, just because if they would, then we'd see other English casters for the Jijik events or for GSL as well, and we don't, right? Like, they're just not willing to make those accounts. So there's a higher chance that we go that extra step. Higher chance. We'll see. We'll see. Only if that's the case. But otherwise, with that, crazy. Yeah, I know. Do you have anything else you wanted to add in regards to the players here for Doyo? Is there anything else that catches your eye?
No, I just want them. I honestly, I want them to have fun with this, and I mean, and by them, I don't mean just the viewers or the production. I mean the players.
Yeah.
I want them to have fun. I want them to just joke. Maybe joke around is not the right word, but like, I don't want them to take it too seriously because, as you said, you don't watch this event for the highest level of play because most of them, if not all of them, are probably out of shape. You're watching this for the event to catch up, to see how they're doing, and maybe it's kind of like a nostalgia kind of thing. So I want them to like just enjoy the event and just like just play to enjoy it and not play to like, oh, I have to win and I'm going home kind of thing. So
yeah, and I think a lot of that's going to come down to the tournament organizer. I think alongside that, I think it's going to be important for them to make content around this. So I'm talking about like in between matches, like having like 21 questions or having like a fun event, just having the players like interact with each other and interact with the audience in a sense with questions or with the camera. Similar to what we had with like I think GSL did a decent job with that. Like, it was great to like I love the GSL behind the scenes videos that we got. Just seeing the players come together and just talk, right? Just talk to each other, catch up with each other, getting ready for the photo shoot as well, and just talking about like just being asked like these impromptu interview questions as well. Like that's the kind of vibe that I want here.
Because the for those who maybe missed it, the way GSL did it, like during they had the media day, as most offline tournaments have a media day for like photos and stuff. So they had the photo shoot, but as they were waiting for their turn at the photo stage booth, whatever you call it, they would have like they would have like a tier list to do, or they would do like short interviews, but it was like one player at a time. And the other players were just chilling around. Sometimes they would like, chime in and add something to somebody's interview as well. And they were just like hanging out essentially and just doing their thing. Yeah. Like Classic was recording like his vlog at the same time, and he like Björn was like helping with him with like camera angles. So like you had like this entire like thing where like they are kind of just hanging out there really because they all know each other at this point.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of what I would want here as well. Like I should give credit where credit is due. Like for GSL, I think their extra content that they made specifically this year for GSL Season 1 and Season 2, I think is probably some of the best stuff that they've done in a while. Like it's in quite some time, in years, and that's what I want here as well.
Right, but does it beat? Remember the old SSL content?
Nah, it doesn't beat SSL. It doesn't.
Firstly, take questions and answers. Unbeatable.
Yeah.
That will be forever the best.
100%.
Do you remember
with the hammer? With the hammer.
Yeah, with that. But do you remember they had this entire series of going on dates with players? I strongly remember that because that was the most Asian thing.
That was Pro League, if you recall. I guess Spot TV, sure, but
no, it was
SSL
Spot
was
TV. It was Spot TV.
Yeah,
no, I think it was a bit later.
TV, but...
Wasn't it after Pro League?
No, it was Pro League. It was Pro League.
Okay.
And yeah, the the player dates were crazy. I love them having fun with it though. I love the was it Hurricane's dates where you find out where it's Stork? Like it was, I think it was Hurricane. It might have been, it might have been someone else. But like when you get the revelation that the person that's on the date is Stork, like that was cinema. That was peak. That's peak StarCraft right there. Is going on a player date and then finding out that Stork was the guy in the wig the entire time. Like that's what you want.
So for those who didn't see that was like ages ago. But basically, there was a series of videos where they would like record from the perspective of the partner of the player, supposedly, as they were like going on a picnic or like eating at a restaurant and stuff. Like, and that was something. I would say that.
It was good. The memes were real. Yeah. Those are the days, baby. Those are the days. See, Susan Classics were iconic. Oh no. was great. But yeah, with that, that does wrap up our coverage of Doyu. And again, it's going to be in 2 weeks' time. We'll be there to cover. We'll be there to cast it. I hope, and I do hope that they're able to bring something fresh to the table, or that they're able to make use of all these old school players and make that extra content and showcase, and catch up with everyone involved with where they've been, what they've been up to, and how things have been looking since their time away from StarCraft, and even maybe for some of them, some of their time in Brood War as well. So do look forward to it. There's a lot of potential with Duyu Cup. A lot of potential. I hope they don't squander it. I hope they're able to make full use of it here as well. Up next, we do have our... Now we can get into our tournaments. Jesus, it's been a bit of a longer podcast this time. There's just been so much to discuss.
I just looked at the clock. Oh no.
Yeah. It's been a long one. Have fun with the timestamps. Have fun with it. As up next, we have SCL King of the Hill number 10. We did mention earlier that I believe this is on the PTR, if I'm not mistaken. We'll have to double check. But there are a couple of King of the Hills on the horizon to test out some of the PTR changes. Here we did have a best of one format. Winner stays on, loser is eliminated. We had Iosop. Iosop takes down Patches 1-0. Blask takes down Iosop. Deathmars takes down Blask. Skillless takes down Deathmars. We just trade back and forth and back and forth. Skills takes down Deathmars. Zardian takes down Skillless. And then we have Zardian going on the first win streak. Takes down Ledlix and Alex Deather in 2 games before falling to Yang Yakov. Yang Yakov, he wins 2 games as well. Takes down Zardian and Tonsi. Does fall to Goblin. Goblin stays on for 2 games, taking down Yang Yakov and Patches. Falls to Deathmars. Looks like we revived some players. We revived Deathmars, revived Zardian, revived Yang Yakov, and Yakov wins in the end as the final King of the Hill, beating Special towards the end of the event. Really interesting lineup of players here. I'm curious how they were found, because I'm pretty sure a bunch of these guys don't play Evo. I'm talking about Juanito, Special, I'm talking about Goblin as well. Those are the 2 that come to mind. Ledlix, like, we cast a lot of StarCraft Evolution, and some of these players do not play in the Open Cups or in the Invitationals or anything. Part of me feels like I wouldn't be surprised if Hyper One was just like looking for players, and they ran out of players at a certain point, and he's just reaching out into DMs like, hey, can anyone play right now? And Lelix is like, I had no idea what SEVO is. I'll just show up for a game. Sure, I'll take they just dragged people like off of Discord and just threw them in. It's kind of what it feels like here with Goblin, Ledlix, and Special. But regardless, great to see an event like this, and congratulations to Yang Yakov winning the most amounts of games here, winning 4 games in total. In the end, though, and also does reign as the King of the Hill for the week. Again, there are going to be future King of the Hills as well, just to showcase the PTR mod. Up next, we had the Patches Patch Clash 7.5. Lovely. Again, this event is hosted on Patches mod. Does feature a bunch of changes, a bunch of unique kind of iteration and view on StarCraft. It gets crazy, maybe not the most balanced of mods, but fun nonetheless. Coming into this, we have Fiant. Fiant takes down Goblin 2-0, takes down Iosop 2-0, takes down Geralt 2-0 as well. Before facing up against Cristiano, he got knocked down earlier in the bracket by Iosop of all players. Crazy, but Cristiano, he does fight all his way back into the finals and does take down Fiant 2-1 initially, and then 2-1 in the revive match or the rematch as well. So Cristiano does come out on top as the Patches Patch Clash champion. Congratulations. Congratulations to Cristiano. Shout out to Patches for hosting the event, for updating his mod, and for making this event as often as he can. Again, this is a really unique kind of way to experience StarCraft with that mod, and with some interesting ideas as well. Whether they ever come to fruition and get added to something like a PTR, maybe one day. Maybe one day. Up next, that does lead us into the Amateur League Weekly, number 162. This is a weekly tournament series that does that has different brackets with different MMR ranges. There's no prize money on the line, but there are points leading into a seasonal finals, which does have prize money. First, we do have the Initiate Weekly. This is for Bronze to Platinum. Here we had Toadvine versus Oxygen. Does win 3-0. Just 2 players. A little bit lower signups this week here. Congratulations to Toadvine. Hope to see more signups in the future. Shout out to Oxygen for competing, of course. Shout out to Oxygen. That leads us into the Veteran Weekly. This is for Diamond 3 to Diamond 2. Here we have Pretty Fly, we have Review, we have Lauren, we have Sugarcolt, we have a lot of regulars here. Double elimination bracket. Lauren does get knocked down earlier by Review in the upper bracket, then does come back in the rematch. Faces off against Pretty Fly in the grand finals and does win 3-0. Very nice comeback out of Lauren. GG. I believe German Terran player. That leads us into the Prestige Weekly, Diamond 1 to Masters 2. Here we also have a bunch of regulars. I see Steez, Vendetta Vic, I see Boreal, Zigger, Lelix, Ilya, Milka, and Defiance, all regulars competing here for this week. Double elimination bracket. Here we have Mathrix. Mathrix takes down Ilya 2-0, takes down Defiance 2-0, takes down Zigger 2-0, and takes down Milka 3. Oh my god, 3-0 in the finals. Clean sweep out of Mathrix. He's a Polish Protoss player, by the way, and he has won these in the past, but never quite in a dominant fashion like this. I would say that typically we have players like Steez that compete against him. I'm thinking of Steez, I'm thinking of Set, I'm thinking of Beast as well. A lot of the regulars that typically contest against Matrix in the finals or in the semis were not here or didn't play against him. Steez didn't get a chance. Did not get a chance, but congratulations to Mathrix nonetheless. That leads us into the Elite Weekly. Here we had a walkover win, so a little bit unfortunate. Again, for the GM version of this event, we very rarely have any GMs or pro players, as they often compete in open cups that actually have a prize pool. Meow Doom does get a walkover win in the event. GG. GG well played. Great to see more Meow Doom nonetheless. Great to see more of him. That leads us into the Uuthermal, the Uuthermal 2-2 Circuit Warm-Up Cup. It feels a little bit weird covering this event after the fact that we covered the main events, but regardless, this was leading into the main event itself. Here we did have an interesting pairing here. We had Spirit and Showtime. They are some of the better 2-2 teams out there. They do come out on top over Minizerg, over Def Mars and Zardians, and over Uuthermal and Goblin, but they made it to the finals. I'll be honest, we rarely get to see Uuthermal and Goblin make it this far, so they had a really strong showing here. They take down Lambo and Nicaract earlier in the brackets. Unique pairing. They take down Laser and Percival. Another unique pairing. Wait, what the hell? A laser, he's usually playing with Skillus. Percival, he's usually playing with another Korean player. We have Lambo, who usually plays with Hearthstone. Nicaract, he's usually with like Geralt or Christiana or just someone random. He doesn't typically have like a set 2v2 player or partner. So yeah, some interesting pairings here. In the end, we had Uuthermal and Goblin up against Spirit and Showtime. And Spirit and Showtime, they do come out on top. Congratulations. Congratulations. Bearing in mind that this didn't really have any impact on standings coming into the main event, just a way to warm up for that main event with 2v2. So congratulations. That led us into the StarCraft 2 Community Team League 2026 Spring Regular Seasons. This is the Chinese Team League that has been ongoing, and there's still a good amount of time left here. We're now wrapping up with Round 10. Round 10 is done. We have Elpis 3 taking down Kauda 4-2. We had Super Kitty taking down Super Puppy 4-3. Whoa, they went to the ace match? What the hell? what happened here, Papi? Ay. Okay, strong showing out of Super Puppy. I wouldn't be surprised if Super Kitty fielded some of their other like B teamers. For those who are unaware, this is like the main team and the academy team, but a surprisingly close series here. Very, very close. Congratulations to Super Kitty. They do rely on Silky. Silky does win the ace match in the end. Congrats. Congratulations to Silky and Super Kitty. Tollage Project, they take down Astartes 5-1. We have Team Old Man. They take down Protoss the Best 6-0. The Old Man, they still got it. They do still have it. Jeshi a part of that, Coffee a part of that as well. True. Really, this is their practice. This is Coffee and Jeshi's practice for the Doyu Cup.
You were saying how they lose in the team league, so they had to show you that they can win.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, Team Hiss, they're up against Rookie Warpgate. They take them down 5-1. We have Starlight Twinkle up against PCEC. Strong showing here out of Starlight Twinkle with Jolo Loves 2-0ing. Is that Nanyo? No. But he 2-0s his opponents. We have Young Zest 2-0 over Smile, and then we had Rewhite 2-0 over his opponent as well. So strong showings here out of our Starlight Twinkle. So I'm just trying to translate. No, yeah, that was Nanyu. Okay. So I just didn't realize Nanyu was on PCEC. And then that must have been Millennium Fox. Yeah, okay, there we go. So strong showings here. Jolo Loves over Nanyu and Rewhite over Millennium Fox. The old guard going over the next generation of Chinese players here. So very, very nice results out of Starlight Twinkle. Again, they're one of the stronger teams in the league. I would say surprisingly rough showing out of PCEC, for sure. I say they beat Old Man earlier, but they did fall to the Twinkle. Up next, we also had another like main team versus academy team. We had Little Fairy over Fairy Thug 6-0. This is kind of what I expected out of Super Kitty, not gonna lie. So that's a strong showing of Little Fairy. And then we had Elpis over Leor 6-0 as well. GG all played. Up next, tomorrow is going to be round 11. We do have Fairy Thug versus Leor, Elpis 3 versus Elpis. So we have the main team versus Academy team. PCEC versus Little Fairy. That's going to be a banger of a best of. So I'm going to be looking forward to that. Another series that does catch my eye here is potentially Old Man versus Astartes, but mainly going to be PCEC versus Little Fairy. Is what I'm looking forward to. Up next, we have our regional events and show matches. Up next, we have the GSC Global StarCraft Cup 2026 Group Stage number 2. Full of players that, of course, I'm very familiar with. I'm sure. As here we do. Oh no, it is. Okay, never mind. I thought this was the Chinese event. My apologies. Here we have Minizerg UA in the playoffs. He takes down Proto Xaver 3-0. We have Zagdash takes down Kamikaze 3-1. We still have Aelith and Clickman still to play this series, and Winkle takes out Enigma 3-2 as well. Do you remember what our predictions were for this event? As the group stage also did wrap up. That was much earlier. But Minizerg is the heavy favorite. But if you recall, I want to say that Zagdash has been getting some really good results as of late. We just haven't been casting it. So we haven't been seeing much of it. But like he has been getting some very, very strong results in a lot of these tournaments. So I don't want to underestimate Zagdash. Minizerg has a little bit more weight behind his name. So he's favored, of course. But we'll see if some of these others can bring him down. Specifically the German players like Winkle and Zagdash have been doing very well as of late. Looking good, looking strong. Up next, we have the Echo Chamber Super Bowl number 1.
I will say the Echo Chamber has not finished yet, and I forgot to remove it from the list because okay. I do check every week if there are new scores, and there are not. So we'll talk about it next time.
We'll talk about the Echo Chamber that is all things Protoss next time. True. As we do have the Vortex 2026 Last Chance Qualifier. This is the final event to solidify the top players going to Budapest, as there is a big event happening in Hungary. For those who are unaware, a big offline event happening in Budapest, and we do have our confirmed players. So here we had a group stage. We had Kazakusa, we had Sality, we had Just Roids, we had Bali, Aztecs, who's one of the event organizers, by the way, Sedib, Milka, and Panda, and we had a crazy round robin group stage. There's so many games, so many matches played. In the end, we have Panda and Milka advancing on. I would typically say that Aztecs would be favored, but remember, Aztecs is no longer an active player. He used to be an active competitor, training, practicing, and leveling up. Nowadays, he's taken a step back from playing and taken a more caster and organizer role instead. Still did play and still did compete, but was taken down by the new guard. Milka, he's a player that we've been featuring in some of the amateur events. You would have seen him in the previous amateur team leagues, or sometimes the Masters One Open and the Magic Up Masters Open as well. So Milka, he's more of like a master tier player, but he has been very active. Panda, he's also one step above. He does not drop a single series, and he comes out on top in first place. So congratulations to Panda and Milka for advancing on into the main event. And I believe with that, we have our final standings. Heading over to the main event itself, we do have our confirmed players. We do have Nihed coming in and qualifying from Endgame. He's a Protoss player. We have Mostin as well coming in from the Hungarian Pro Series number 7. That's Mostin, Robbie G, and Freeman. From point standings, we have Order and PSZ, and from the Last Chance Qualifier, we have Milka and Panda as well. You can see here the groups are now confirmed, which means players have time to prepare for the group stage. We have Group A and Group B. Group A is going to be Nihed, Robbie G, Order, and Panda. Group B, PSZ, Freeman, Mostin, and Milka. This will be taking place in July 27th and August 3rd in 6 and 7 weeks time respectively. So it's still a ways away. They got a long time here to prepare. Best of luck to all the players. Best of luck. Coming into this, PSZ and Nihed are the top 2 players in Hungary. But again, they both have, or everyone has around 2 months to prepare. Best of luck. Best of luck. That leads us into the Rookie Warpgate Invitational 2026 June Cup. Again, this is a Chinese tournament for younger, amateur, up-and-coming players. I say younger, more amateur players. There aren't really many notables here. I do see some admins, though. I see Bukun. I see Stray forfeit. Oh, Stray would have been favored here for sure. I see Drink. I see Pioneer, who's more of an amateur player as well. I feel like Pioneer has to be favored here for sure. Pioneer and Drink, they're the two that come to mind. Coming into the event itself, looks like we have a Code A and Code S version. Drink is seeded further in. Pioneer, he is seeded in round 1. So those are the two that do come to mind as the top players for this event. But best of luck to everyone that's involved. I want to say Flood also is a familiar name to me, but I think I'm thinking of the Canadian Zerg player Flood. I'm thinking of someone else. So I'm looking at Drink and Pioneer. Drink and Pioneer. I see Stray and Bukun there in Code A. I feel like Stray deserves to be in Code S, not gonna lie, but he did forfeit against Pioneer, so I said, never mind. Did forfeit. But I do think that he has a strong showing. He has a strong standing in Code A, for sure. So looking at Stray, looking at Drink, looking at Pioneer, but best of luck to all those involved. Best of luck. That leads us into the StarCraft 2 Weekly Open Tournament at 2026 Season 1 Season Finals. Oh, there's the finals. Oh, okay. So this has been a weekly tournament, but looks like we are wrapping up the season after 8 editions. This does bring together all the top players. We have Silky, Cyan, Jeshi, Jolo Loves, Lemon, SCV, Nanyu, and do I know that last player? I want to say that's Nanami Chiaki. That's got to be Nanami Chiaki. Let's find out. No, that's Keyboard Superman. God damn it. That's Keyboard Warrior. No Nanami here. We're missing Nanami Chiaki. Otherwise, very Protoss heavy, but that's a lot of PvP. That's a lot of Protoss. In the end, Jeshi comes out on top over Keyboard Warrior, 3-1. Cyan over SCV, 3-0. Big win there for Cyan, by the way, as SCV has been looking very impressive as of late. Joe Loves takes down. Wait, hold on. I was saying that was Nanyu. Nanyu's a Zerg player. What am I saying? That is. Oh, that's Shafei. True. So that's Shafei. So Jolo takes down Shafei 3-0. Meanwhile, Lemon takes down Silky 3-1. Big win there for Lemon. Lemon takes down Jolo 3-0. Cyan takes down Jeshi 3-0. In the end, we have a third place match. Jeshi takes down Jolo Loves 3-0. Jeshi is third place. Meanwhile, Lemon and Cyan went all the way to the ace match. I was favoring Lemon coming into this, but no, Cyan takes down Lemon 3-2. Went all the way to the ace match, and this might bode well for Cyan coming into the Doyu Cup.
I just want to say, you were
event.
like, Cyan, he's not that active. He's not that there are other players that are good. And Cyan's like, I'm gonna win everything. I'm gonna prove that I'm better than this.
True. I mean, again, I was favoring Lemon here, 100%. I do favor Lemon on paper, but hey, Cyan in PvP comes out on top. He's getting ready. He's getting ready for Doyo Cup. Getting ready. So congratulations. That leads us into our OC events. We have the OC Even Season Playoffs. Playoffs number 1 has been ongoing. We were this week's coverage and casters. We did have Max takes down Young Yakov, Percival over Cham, Solo got a walkover win over Bunny, Showtime over Lambo, Beyond over Nightmare, Shameless over Cristiano, Cure over Hearthstone, and Skillless over Art. Nothing crazy, no crazy upsets or anything like that. But we are getting into the upper echelons of OSC, and we are going to be casting next week's tournament, next week's broadcast day of this event. And we have some banger matches here. Solo versus Showtime, Max versus Percival, Beyond Shameless, and Cure Skillless. Some insane matches. When it comes to lower bracket, it is also progressing over time. We are getting there, but looks like Bunny forfeited both series actually, so that's very unfortunate. I will say that Bunny has a strong chance of advancing on, but I do also know that Bunny doesn't really play as much StarCraft nowadays. We even found out in the GSL interviews as well, like a lot of players are giving him a hard time, or we're admitting that Bunny like nowadays doesn't really practice as much, doesn't play as much. That is shown in his play, and looks like he is not competing in the OSC events. Not competing. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. That leads us into the OC King of the Hill, weekly number 251. Here we do have a plethora of players. We did begin with Art versus Cristiano. I want to say Cristiano might have been the reigning King of the Hill. Just double checking. Yep, he was. He was the reigning King of the Hill, so he's the starting player. He gets knocked out immediately by Art. And we mentioned earlier that Art has been looking like a beast as of late. This entire year, 2026 has been Art's year. He takes down Cristiano. He takes down Percival, by the way. Percival, who's been looking insane as well. So huge wins here for Art. He takes down Nightmare. He does eventually fall to Nicorette. Remember, these are best of ones. Winner stays on, loser is eliminated. So Art is now out. Then Gratchi takes down Art, takes down Geralt, and does take down Gigi Machine as well. Strong showing there by Nicorette. 3 wins in a row before falling to Creator. Creator starts his own 3-game win streak, takes down Nicorette, Fiant, and Arog Fire. Once again, great to see Arog Fire competing on a regular basis. And Creator, out of all players, he falls to Mindle VK. Let's go. The content streamer himself, that Mindle VK, takes down Creator. Big win for Mindle. Takes down Lelix, does fall to Geralt as Geralt was revived. And still was knocked out earlier. It's short-lived as Bjorn goes on a win streak himself. Takes down Geralt, Gigi Machine, and Cristiano to be the final King of the Hill. GG. GG, well played. Congratulations to Björn for claiming the win in the end. For being our King of the Hill. That leads us into the last stretch of the broadcast today. That leads us into the Open Cups. First, we have Kung Fu Cup. Kung Fu Cup number 10. We casted this earlier yesterday, actually. So Kung Fu Cup number 10. Here we had is a weekly Open Cup organized and run by SC Boy. A massive prize pool of 450 USD. Hero takes down Shameless 2-0, takes down Lambo 2-0, takes down Shin 2-1, went all the way to the ace match before advancing on to the grand finals. On the way there, Shin took down Rogue, big win for Shin. I usually lean towards Rogue nowadays, specifically for ZVZ, but they often go back and forth. This time, Shin does bring him down. Shout out to Rebellion for taking a map off of Shin. Very impressive. That leads us down further into Clem, and Clem does fall to Classic early on in the quarterfinals, 1-2. Big win there for Classic. Likewise, he takes down Ryung as well earlier in the event. Scrolling down a little bit further, Chance. Hey, Chance, he's also a rare sight in these events. Chance, he does fall to Percival. Björn takes down Percival. Classic 2-0s Björn, and Hero and Classic, they go all the way to the ace match. But this event was a little bit special. If you missed it, I recommend the VODs because Hero played Terran. Hero, he played Terran in game 1 and he played Terran in game 2. Hero did defeat Classic with Terran, by the way, with a crazy build on Ruby Rock. He wasn't even all in, by the way. Hero was getting a third CC, he was building up, but he did outposition Classic, and then bam! Hero snowballed into a win. Tried to play again on Winter Madness, but Classic had his way with Hero. Hero did have a rougher time on Winter Madness, stumbling his way into the mid game. So he had that back and forth, then Hero switched back to Protoss, but again, Hero was showcasing his Terran in a very impressive way, before eventually winning with Protoss on Old Republic and Title Citadel.
I would say,
GG, well
I've
played.
noticed that something that Hero does, like, for a while now, quite frequently, where he will, like, start the series as Terran and then just switch back to Protoss at some point. Like, I think he often does it, like, finals. Like, especially, like, playing, I don't know, versus Clem or someone. I think he's done that before.
You say he's done that before. He has done it before, but I think this is the first time he's done it this year. Like, I think the last time we saw him play Terran was was last year in 2025. So it's been a while. It's been a while since we've seen Heroes off race, which is what caught me off guard. But yeah, he was showcasing his off race once again. For those that don't know, Heroes Terran is around 6k. It's around 6k on the ladder. At least it was last year. Maybe he's been playing a little bit more Terran as of late. To play Terran against Classic, you got to be confident. So very impressive play there by Hero, winning with Terran and with Protoss. As that leads us into the Wardy TV Monday. Wardy TV Monday number 90. This was played on the live version of the game. Here we had Clem. Clem, he takes down Nikrak 2-1. He takes down Zaun 2-1 with his Terran. Does advance on to the grand finals. Leading into that, Cristiano defeated Solar. Yo, Solar's been having a bit of a harder time as of late. Full into Cristiano, that's a huge win for Cristiano. Takes down Solar, does fall to Zaun. Great to see Zaun competing. Zaun rarely plays in Open Cups. Before that, though, we had Showtime. Showtime takes down Björn 2-1. Classic takes down GG Machine 2-0. And then we had Classic over Showtime and Clem over Zaun. We had Clem versus Classic in the grand finals, went all the way to the ace match, and Clem takes down Classic 3-2. Went all the way to game 5, all the way to the ace match. An intense back and forth. Classic did defeat Clem in Kung Fu Cup. Clem defeats Classic here in Wardy TV Monday. So we have that back and forth between the two players. Congratulations to Clem. That leads us into the Monday Night Weekly. Monday Night Weekly number 55, a PTR edition. True, bear that in mind. For this event, we had Clem. Clem, he had... Oh, sorry, this was also the event that had a massive prize pool. It was like 1,000? Yeah, $1,000 prize pool. So massive prize pool, PTR edition. Clem, he takes down Niskillis 2-1. Skills took down Gabe earlier, by the way. That's huge. Like, I know that Protoss has been having a harder time here, but to see Skillis and Nikita take down Gabe, that's still impressive. Even took a map off of Clem. Clem takes down Skills 2-1. Clem takes down Raynor 2-1 as well to advance on to the upper bracket finals. Lambo, he was also working his way through the players here. He took down Trigger, GG Machine, and Classic to face off against Clem. This is also the event that we were talking and discussing earlier in the tournament regarding the Reddit thread. Here, GG Machine did take down Max 2-1, so big win there from GG Machine. Takes out Max Fax. We were emphasizing that that was not cheese. Those were not rushes. That was longer macro play. And Max Fax was also very unfamiliar with the mod, as he does not. This was his first time playing the PTR as well. But Lambo takes down Classic 2-1. Then we have Clem over Lambo. Clem 2-0s Lambo to advance on to the grand finals, where we had a rematch where Lambo took down Rainer 2-0. Huge win here for Lambo, by the way. Crazy to take down Rainer. Very, very impressive. As Lambo does take down Rainer, and then we have Lambo versus Clem in the rematch. Clem takes down Lambo 2-1. GG. GG, well played. That leads us into the Sparkling Tunic Cup, the SDC, also PTR edition, by the way. This was our event. Here we had Björn. We had Björn solo returning after years of retirement, by the way. That was crazy to see solo again. Didn't get to see his games. I hope to see more of him in the future.
Yeah, I checked. Last registered game of solo was 2018.
Crazy. He's been gone longer than Trap. 8 years. 8 years before playing a game, and finally showcasing and resurfacing. There we go. Resurfacing after 8 years here in Tunic Cup. Great to see Solo once again. Hopefully we see him more. Hopefully we see more of Solo in the future, but crazy his return after 8 years. Crazy. Björn takes on Solo 2-0. Björn takes on Shino 2-0. Shino did take down Nickrat earlier in the event. Crazy result there out of Shino. Likewise, we had Yang Yakov over Honmono. We had Nightmare over Rake. Yang Yakov takes down Nightmare 2-0. Nightmare, who's being very experimental with his play here, as we get Yang Yakov versus Björn in the finals. And I'll be honest, we were robbed the ace match. Yakov, he was in a good position on Winter Madness. Like, things were not looking bad at all initially, but Yang Yakov, he was resting on his laurels a little bit. He did miss his opportunities. In the end, Björn had a crazy comeback. He was able to win 3-1 in the grand finals. Very impressive performance there by Björn. GG. GG, well played, but I could have seen this going to the ace match. Up next, we have Picasso Cup, also on the PTR. This was the Picasso Cup number 85 PTR edition. We spoke earlier in the event talking about MaxFax, and MaxFax is also being very exploratory in this event as well. You could also see his unfamiliarity with the patch, but Solar, he 2-0'd Percival, he 3-0'd MaxFax in Picasso Cup. Björn, he takes down Cure 3-1 as well. Then we have our grand finals, went all the way to the ace match. Was a very close and very intense finals, by the way. Björn showcasing the new Ghost. The new Ghost, of course, cannot be interrupted, and Solar had a very hard time. There were 2 games that were like 40-minute games, went all the way to the late game, and Björn found himself with a Mass Ghost, and Solar had no answer. He had no answer. He was struggling against the Mass Ghost, as Fungals and Infestors were doing nothing, and the Ghost Snipes, they just popped off over the Broodlords, over the Lurkers, over the Ultras, and it was crazy. It was crazy. So Solar, he was looking a little bit lost in that series, but in the end, he does come out on top on Mothership. In the end, it does claim the series 3-2 over Björn, and is this week's Picasso Cup champion. GG. GG, well played. In the end, he just made sure that Björn didn't get there in that final Mothership game. Did not get to those ghosts, did not get to that late game. Up next, we had Kung Fu Cup weekly number 11. This was last night, if I recall correctly. Yep, it was last night. Once again, this was on the live version of the game. We had Clem. Clem, he takes down Showtime 2-1, takes down Hero 2-1. Big win here for Clem. Bearing in mind that the SC board did not seed this bracket, so we had a lot of big names facing off early on. Hero and Classic in the quarterfinals is crazy. Hero, he eliminates Classic. Clem, I'm sure, is happy about that. Clem takes down Hero 2-1. Solar, he 2-0'd Björn, he 2-0'd Shin, and Solar, he 3-2's Clem in the grand finals. That is a huge win for Solar, by the way. To see him struggle in some of these other weeklies, but to see him excel here. And fun fact, I see Solo in the bracket again. I see him, this time in the base version of the game, but he does play against Yang Yakov. We're seeing more of Solo. Great to see, great to see. But again, Solo does take down a Clem 3-2 to become this week's Kung Fu Cup champion. GG. GG, well played. And with that, that does wrap up all of our events for the week. Again, a much longer podcast this week, as there was a lot to discuss in regards to the PTR, in regards to the Kaelaris event, the TLMC. We spent a lot of time on TLMC as well. True. Doyo Cup as well, all the other tournaments. A lot to discuss. Do highly recommend checking out some of the previous sections of the podcast. When it comes to upcoming events, though, if you want to take part in some of these tournaments, the sign-up list is the place to be. ! Sign-up list in the chat. There are plenty of events coming out. We have Duckling Open in 2 days' time. True, we have Duckling Open, we have the Sparkling Tunic Cup, Monday Night Weeklies, Kung Fu Cup, MSO, Picasso Cups, Monday Night Weeklies. Plenty of tournaments on the horizon. Do check out the sign-up list, as that is updated on a regular basis. It is updated. Plenty of Open Cups, plenty of tournaments. Meanwhile, check out our Patreon. Our events are all funded via the Patreon. So if you want to help us grow the Sparkling Tuna Cup, you can help us do so via the Patreon. !Patreon in the chat. Our Patreon again does fund our tournaments. It funds Tuna Cup. It also funds Duckling Open and Swan Open as well. All of our events are funded via the Patreon. So you can help us out there if you wish. Otherwise, thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Again, a much longer podcast this week. There was a lot to discuss. There always is. There's just so much StarCraft going on. We do what we can. Our next broadcast should be tomorrow. Is it morning or evening? Let me just double check here. Oh boy, tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning here with the SCL, with StarCraft Evolution League number 22. That is the final SCL, the final StarCraft Evolution League of the, potentially of ever, before the Invitational and before Code S and before the main league begins. That is the final Open Cup. The final Open Cup we're covering tomorrow. Otherwise, over the weekend, we have Code for Giants Cup, we have SDO, we have STC, and Kung Fu Cup on Monday as well. Plenty of content, plenty of StarCraft throughout the course of the upcoming weeks. And also, Uber Thermal.
Yeah, let's not forget, we also have the Utherma 2v2 on the weekend, which we will not be casting, but we will be adminning, so make sure to tune into Utherma stream.
True. Check out your thermal stream. Check out the 2v2 circuit, as it is the biggest 2v2 event in the history of StarCraft. A lot of crazy games being showcased, and of course, listening in to all the top players as well with those comms. So do check it out. It's a very fun event. It's a lot of fun, very unique. Otherwise, we're going to be wrapping up here for the time being. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Shout out to Kura for handling the production side of things, and we'll see you guys tomorrow for some StarCraft Evolution content over the weekend for some more StarCraft and even some 2v2 action as well. See you then, papi. Hasta luego.